It's a decades-old mystery.
This is a view from the south side of the crime scene. Approximately where Officer Grubai is now is the approximate location of the body.
All leads had been exhausted.
Why can't I solve this case? Why can't I find out who killed this 15-year-old girl?
How could the killer just do this and disappear?
Karen Stitt was just 15 when she was brutally murdered on her way to a bus stop in Sunnyvale, California, in Silicon Valley.
Dumped at the base of a cinder block wall, behind some bushes, her hands and her legs bound with her own clothes.
Raped, stabbed over 50 times, and left to bleed to death by a monster.
To cross paths with an evil predator on such a short window of time is like a lightning strike.
When someone is murdered, it's like a whole world has been destroyed.
It changed all of our lives forever.
For every family member and friend who never got answers, there are investigators still haunted by the case they never closed.
It was a case that hung over their heads for decades.
It was in their neighborhood, happened on their watch. They wanted it solved.
Decades after Karen Stitt's murder, one determined cop, Detective Matt Hutchison, takes her case on.
But I was reading a newspaper one day and I saw this article about this Sunnyvale cop who had posed as a busboy to gather DNA evidence to solve a cold case. And I thought, this is kind of cool. Sounds like a TV show or something.
Matt never gives up, and he will use every avenue available to him to solve the crime.
He's willing to kind of get down in the muck to do whatever it takes to find these people.
He will bust tables, and he will collect trash, and he will get his fortune told. Matt will do anything to identify these killers.
For every story, there's a villain and a hero. And I think Matt is the hero in this story.
You're gonna work these cases until they're solved, or it's gonna break you.
Matt Hutchison, who goes by Hutch, has made arrests in no less than 7 cold cases, leading some to use a different nickname for him, Badass Detective.
I was born and raised in the city of Sunnyvale. Grew up like any other kid, playing Little League and all the sports that I could.
I asked Matt what he was like as a kid, and he says, I guess you'd say I was willful. I was a willful kid.
I'm the youngest of 3 boys, so I had to keep up. I had to get a quick wit to defend myself quite a bit.
He went to high school probably 5 miles from where he does his police work. Then he went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which is a few hours down the road. So he's very much a local guy.
You didn't start off wanting to be a cop. What was your original plan?
I majored in history, and I thought that I was going to be a high school history teacher, maybe coach golf or football. And while I was in college, I realized I probably don't have the patience to be teaching high school kids. My stepfather worked for the city of Sunnyvale as a police officer for 30-plus years.
Oh, wow.
And he kind of guided me down that path and said, you need to consider public safety, and I think it'd be a fit for you, and it was.
It's a unique program in all of the United States. Every officer there is a fully trained police officer, EMT, and firefighter.
Basically what that means is that everybody who signs up to be a cop also signs up to be a firefighter and an EMT.
A lot of people want to either be cops or firefighters. It definitely takes a special person that wants to do both sides of the house.
Which one do you like best? What's the difference?
I would say that when you're a firefighter, they wave to you with all 5 fingers instead of just their favorite middle one when you're on patrol.
So we worked on graveyard patrol together, 8 p.m. to 7 a.m., so true nighttime hours.
Corinne is a lot like me. We're like-minded. We're 1 and 2 trying to push each other. If she made an arrest, I needed to go out and make 2, and vice versa. My goal on Graveyard was to be as active as I possibly could. I wanted to get as much experience as quickly as I could because I knew that I wanted to get into investigations. I applied 3 times before I was selected.
Once he finally makes it to investigations, Hutch, now Detective Hutch, finally finds his calling with a little inspiration from an unexpected source.
I was looking around for something to keep me busy and keep my mind engaged, and one of my husband's friends was a captain at DPS, the Department of Public Safety.
They put her on a filing duty. And after a certain amount of time, maybe a few months, she went to one of the sergeants and said, basically, this is really boring. Can you give me something a little more interesting to do? He said, yeah, I got something might interest you.
The detective that took me to the cold case room, he asked me to come back to the bureau to organize the closet and the files.
Your original goal was to make it all more streamlined,
Yes.
organized,
Yes.
more manageable.
Yes. Initially, I was putting them together for the investigator, but I got so drawn in.
Were you prepared to see the violent nature in these files?
No, not at all.
Carol told me that she was just horrified. She told herself, these people can't get away with this, whoever did this.
I'm not going to solve it, and I know that, but I'm hoping that I can put the data together to give to a detective that can solve it, or at least make more headway or eliminate more people.
For the most part, they were not getting worked. And all of a sudden, here comes Matt. It's like he hadn't found his true mission, and then all of a sudden, he found it.
Cold cases are cold for a reason. What made you think that you could solve those?
They get under your skin, they bury into your heart, and you wanna solve them so badly that you can't just put them down. The very first day that I opened the cold case closet door, there were boxes stacked 6 feet high, filing cabinets with loose papers and things all over them.
It's such a dramatic scene. It was like the attic that you've not gone up into for 30 years. There was one folding chair, so he sat on a little folding chair with the files, and he would have a legal pad and on one knee, and he'd be taking notes.
So many of these boxes representing lives lost.
It was just him, total silence, back there with the files, back there with the ghosts.
When I became a detective and I told my stepfather I was interested in the cold cases, he said, you have to work Karen Stitt. She's a 15-year-old girl who was abducted, stripped nude, bound, and sexually assaulted, and left in an alleyway.
Blood stains are here and on the other side of the wall.
Every detective over the years, when they look at that case, that's the case you want to solve. If you're going to work any of them, you want to solve that one.
Little does he know, it'll take him another 5 years and traveling 2,500 miles, teaming up with library ladies and a mom on a laptop, going undercover to visit a psychic to close in on the killer of Karen Stitt. It's a sunny September morning, and a truck driver is making a delivery to a local garden center. He sees something in the bushes. What did he discover?
Initially, he thought he was seeing a mannequin and didn't think twice about it.
It wasn't a mannequin.
No, it was a young girl. What we're approaching right now is the wall where she's eventually found. All this was completely different in 1982, so this is a driveway that goes down an alley, and this wall extends about 20 to 30 feet down this alley.
Her body was found right behind this wall?
Yeah, there used to be a large hedge and a bunch of bushes that lined the wall, and she was concealed between the bushes and the wall itself, laying on her side, looking out.
You used this alleyway when you were a kid?
Yeah, so I would get stuck at this red light here, and I would cut through the alley and find my way back out onto El Camino. I wasn't one for patience and waiting at red light, so I found a way around. My thoughts of this alley changed dramatically when I realized what happened here.
You have to work?
Yeah, finally. In this case, they did a scene walkthrough where they actually videotaped it.
About how far is this west of the body, Jim?
About 40 feet.
So I can see exactly what they saw.
Blue jeans, belt, more cosmetics, lipstick.
There was blood on the wall behind her body, and then up above her, there was more blood on top of the wall.
Blood stains are here and on the other side of the wall.
The brutality of this crime was over the top. She was stabbed over 50 times in the chest and sexually assaulted. She was nude. She had her hands and her legs bound with her own clothes.
Leaves near the victim's feet were disturbed, which suggested she had been thrown there still alive.
And it's certainly the most graphic and violent scene that I've seen in my career.
The voice that we hear narrating the crime scene video, who is that?
That's Bruce Dudley. As the lead crime scene investigator, he was the one directing all the evidence items that were collected. He managed that entire crime scene. He actually told me that this case has given him nightmares for years because he wanted the case solved so badly.
Object here appears to be a makeup pencil, eyeliner.
Personal items of hers were strewn about where she was found.
A brown-colored compact.
They went through the crime scene and took painstaking care to preserve everything they thought might be usable someday down the road.
And that will be branch 5.
They were collecting branches from the bushes that she had been brushed up against. They were taking blood samples, soil samples. They collected every one of her personal items that they could find on scene. There was a wallet that was kind of underneath her body. Inside the wallet was her Social Security card that listed her name, Karen Stitt.
Karen Stitt was a high school girl that lived in Palo Alto, about 20 minutes north of Sunnyvale.
As investigators focus on the crime scene in the alleyway, their fellow officers monitor the perimeter to keep the public out.
One of those officers on the perimeter got approached by a young man asking questions about, hey, what's going on? What's with all the police activity? The officer eventually asked, well, who are you? What are you doing here? And he said, I'm David Woods, and I was here last night. I was dropping off my girlfriend in this area. Her name's Karen Stitt.
We had just moved out there that summer. It was a pretty amazing place to land at. Shortly after is when I met Karen. I was 16 and Karen was 15.
I was with Karen when she met David. We were at the mall, and I vaguely remember her meeting a boy with a baseball cap on, and from there she continued seeing him.
I think I could call it a love at first sight. She just really swept me off my feet, and we were just instantly a couple at that point. It was just pure bliss, really. We'd go out wandering around. One place I remember, it was a Tower Records. You're flipping through records and albums. We're both into rock music. I had definitely a wide variety of tastes. I know she liked a lot of what I did too.
On the last night of her life, Karen takes the number 22 bus from Palo Alto to Sunnyvale for a date with David.
David met her at the bus stop.
He played video games at a 7-Eleven.
I got really good at this one called Defender.
They went to a miniature golf course.
And then we walked over to our new house and met with my parents and sister briefly. We went up to my room and I played some guitar for her. I was big into guitar then. And after a while, we went back out and just hung out at this little elementary school that was close to the house. We lost track of time a little bit and hustled off toward the bus stop.
He was worried that he was going to bust curfew.
I was kind of on thin ice about that, with my parents always coming in a little late.
He's got to get her back to the bus stop because he's got to get back home.
We got close enough to see the corner where the bus stop was at Wolf and El Camino. And, we kissed goodnight, and she grabbed my ball cap, which was, a prize to her. She knew that was kind of a part of me, as I'd always have it. And it's like, okay, I'll get it back from you tomorrow.
The first sign that something is wrong comes when David gets an early morning call. Family and friends are looking for Karen. She never came home.
I got a call wondering if Karen was still at my place, that she didn't come back last night. And, I got dressed and went down, picked up the bus at the same spot.
David heads to Palo Alto to retrace her steps, but there's no sign of Karen. His worry growing, he makes the return trip home.
When I got off the bus, I started walking down the road and I see the crime scene taped off. Then I'm a little more concerned, so I approached one of the uniformed officers that was there asking what's going on, and at that point, they pretty much whisked me away.
He was the last person to see her alive.
And when cops search David at the police station, they find something that only heightens their suspicions.
When you're 6 hours into a homicide investigation, you have to follow that lead.
Then they discover that he lied to his mom on the morning after Karen's murder.
They're looking at him saying, well, he's not exactly credible.
It was right around this area that Karen Stitt, just 15 years old, says goodnight to her boyfriend. He turns and runs in that direction to make curfew. She heads in the opposite direction, around the corner, to catch her bus. But the bus comes and goes, and Karen never gets on.
Karen was bright and kind and beautiful. My brother was her father. Karen was the third child.
She was the baby of the family.
She was. She was born prematurely. She weighed less than 6 pounds and really wasn't expected to live. But she was strong, and she grew into a thriving baby and a happy child. So from the very beginning, she was a fighter. This one's dated 1972, and she's in her brownie outfit. So she would have been 5 there. And here, I remember this is their house in Pittsburgh, where she was raised, sitting on the couch in their living room. And then this final picture is her with her sister. This is Suzanne in the front, Karen in the middle, and a family friend, Susan.
Her mother and father divorced?
Yes, they divorced, and my brother first moved to Georgia and then took a job in California, living in Palo Alto.
And then at 14 years old, Karen's life is hit with tragedy when her mother, Kathy, takes her own life. What impact did that have on Karen?
I can only imagine what it's like to lose a parent in any circumstance at such a young age. But she was lucky she had the support of her family, and particularly her older sister, Suzanne, who just adored her.
After her mother's death, Karen moves to California to live with her father full-time.
She went out there and was immediately enrolled in school and seemed to be doing great.
She went to Palo Alto Senior High School, or Pally. She came in halfway through what would have been her freshman year.
We just clicked, started hanging out, swapped numbers, and just became really tight friends.
Karen was definitely a person that once you met her, she was just like no other girl that I had ever met before.
We were either always on the phone or together, out doing what 15-year-olds do, hanging at the mall, being girls. We weren't afraid to take walks to the store, ride the buses by ourselves. It was just easy living at that time.
As the summer ended, she was in love. Mm-hmm. She was about to start a new school year. Was this a new life for her?
I think it was. She was excited about the future and about the possibilities.
But Karen's sudden murder stuns her friends and family.
One of her shoes is up to the right, underneath the limb there.
It was just unthinkable that something like that could happen.
The leaves appear to be pushed back during the struggle.
He didn't want to believe it, like it couldn't be true.
Where the other 2 subjects are standing is about where the body was located.
And you see that there are monsters out there. It changed all of our lives forever.
As they search to identify the monster who killed Karen, police are locked in on the one person they know she was with the night before, David Woods.
And At that point, they pretty much whisked me away, took me down to their station for questioning.
What did officers find in his pocket?
When he came in for questioning, it's common to just do a cursory search of him to make sure he doesn't have any weapons. And when they did that, they found that he was in possession of a pocket knife.
Could be the murder weapon.
He was the last person with her, and now he's got a weapon on his person. They're certainly concerned that that could be the murder weapon.
David, what we need to know from you is the last time you saw Karen, where you were.
She came over to visit me last night.
About what time?
She came over about between 8 and 9.
The detectives are probing him for information as if he's a suspect. I don't know that he necessarily recognized that he was a suspect in that moment.
It still was not occurring to me that something this horrific could have happened.
What's she wearing?
She was wearing her blue jeans, blue and white striped shirt, black satin jacket.
She had it on at the time, or did you give it to her when you met her?
I gave it to her, but...
You gave it to her when you left where?
Okay. I walked her up to the bus stop. Then I walked home and left her with my hat.
Detectives are pressing David for details about his hat because that morning they found it next to Karen's body.
Can you describe your hat, David?
It's a blue hat with a patch on the front that says Rush. It's got 2 buttons, a Rolling Stones button and a Judas Priest button. Something happened to her?
That's what we're trying to find out. You walked her up to the bus stop and then left her there?
Mm-hmm.
Did you wait for the bus with her?
No, I had to go home. So I didn't like doing it.
The detectives pushed him quite a bit on why would you leave her out by herself.
Was she physically at the bus stop sitting on the bench when you left?
No.
Where was she?
She was walking toward it from the restaurant.
How come you didn't stay with her?
So I had to be home.
You know any objection? David Tuss looking in your home and looking at the clothes that you were wearing last night.
If you need to know, support.
It's important for us to know because Karen Stitt was murdered last night.
She was murdered last night?
Yes.
I found out that she had been killed at that point, and it just still seemed unreal to me. My world got swept out from under my feet, and then I had that horrible regret of not being there to protect her. And, just thinking about what she must have had to endure, it was just so painful.
David may be reeling from the shock of Karen's loss, but he and his parents take investigators back to his house and they give them his clothes from the night before.
None of his clothes had any biological evidence, no blood, the knife was clean.
But what's missing from the crime scene quickly takes investigators in a different direction.
There's not enough blood on the ground, on the wall, for that to be where she was stabbed.
Could Karen have been attacked and killed somewhere else and then left back at that alley?
There was a witness that came forward and described a very distinct vehicle. They described the coloring and described a sticker. Detectives told officers to be out in the neighborhood day and night trying to find this car. They're casting a very wide net because we just really don't have any idea who did this. Every time I look at the crime scene photos, as traumatic as they are, I want to study them and know them like the back of my own hand because I want to be able to explain every single item. The what, the how, the where, the when, the why. I want to know every answer I can.
In 1982, investigators are also studying the crime scene closely and have zeroed in on Karen's boyfriend.
I don't recall them having any suspicions other than possibly David, because he was the last one with her.
And that's not all. They discovered he had not told everyone the same story about the morning after Karen's murder.
Did you receive a phone call this morning?
Yeah.
What time? Who was it?
It was her sister's room.
say why she was looking for Karen. She was trying to get him down.
But when he hung up the phone that morning, he had told his mom something different.
When David finishes that conversation, Mom asks him, who was that? And he tells his mom it was Karen.
Even though he explains he was just trying to avoid worrying her, it feeds their suspicions.
When the police are talking to all these different people and getting 4 different versions of the events, they're looking at him saying, well, he's not exactly credible. Why would he lie to his mom about who he just talked to?
Even as they're taking a hard look at David, cops are also re-examining the crime scene and details that seem to be pointing in an entirely different direction.
Where Karen was found, there's not enough blood on the ground, on the wall, for that to be where she was stabbed. There's just no way. I've always believed that whoever abducted her put her into some sort of a vehicle that was big enough that the crime was committed inside the vehicle. The investigators keyed in on that as well. At one point, there was a witness that came forward and described a very distinct vehicle. It was either a truck with a shell over it or a panel van type of vehicle. Detectives told officers, I need you to be out in the neighborhood day and night trying to find this specifically described car. And they actually found a vehicle that matched generally the description and found that guy and interviewed him as well.
But this tip goes nowhere, as does every other potential lead they chase. From a reportedly violent military veteran seen in the area that night, to a clerk at the 7-Eleven, where David Wood said he was playing an arcade game.
They just had blood on the wall, a boyfriend who made some statements that were inconsistent, and there's really nothing else to work.
Did the family suspect anyone?
I don't think there was anyone that the family truly suspected.
And they kept saying, you know, it's only one phone call away. Whoever knows anything at all, just make the call. The longer it went, I knew the harder it was going to be to find somebody.
We didn't hear anything for quite a long time, like 5 years or something. And then somebody would reach out. And then you wouldn't hear anything again for a long time. So I thought it was just like a repeating cycle of they don't have anything, but they're just asking more questions.
But whenever a detective does reopen Karen's file, and many do, one name usually rises to the top.
Really, it's not the boyfriend? Are we sure it's not the boyfriend?
They felt like they knew what happened, and they had a hard time going beyond just looking at the boyfriend.
He was the main suspect initially, and he remained a suspect for years.
I'm sure whatever list of potential suspects was there, I was probably always on there. But, you know, I also knew that, you know, there's no evidence that I would have been able to do something so horrific.
In 2000, a new detective is looking at this case and realizes we can use DNA technology on the blood from our crime scene.
Where are we here?
We are at the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office Crime Laboratory, where we do DNA analysis.
In Karen Stitt's case, you processed some evidence in the year 2000. Why do it now?
The crime laboratory went online with the more modern, newer DNA typing. A 15-year-old girl was murdered in 1982. The victim had been tied up with her own jacket, and this jacket had blood smears and stains all over it.
If you're stabbing someone, the odds are that the blood is going to lubricate your hand and it's going to slip, and you're going to cut your own hand on that knife blade.
So I was looking for something that stood out. This is my note page from the case. I noted that the stains were all soaked or smeared. One little red dot was thick, shiny, and perfectly round, as if someone just dropped it and it dried. Because it stood out, I sampled it for DNA analysis, and it was an unknown male DNA profile.
That same profile matched the blood stain on the wall above her.
That was the point we thought, this is our killer. That's the person that did this. The first thing we did with that was to compare it to her boyfriend.
We do a one-to-one comparison between David Woods and the blood at the scene, and David Woods is eliminated as the source of that blood.
After nearly 20 years, with a cloud of suspicion hanging over him, David Woods is finally ruled out as Karen Stitt's killer.
It's the DNA that allowed us to rule him out as a suspect.
How does this unknown DNA profile change the investigation?
Now that's the person that you need to focus on. Figure out who that blood belongs to.
We didn't know who it was. It was a profile that was eligible to be uploaded into CODIS, the national database, and we did upload it, but there was no hit.
I got to a point where I felt like this probably will never get solved.
It almost became a subject that we didn't talk about in the family.
But 35 years after Karen's death, Hutch takes this case on with a new determination to solve it.
When I first started working it, there had been an article in a local newspaper where her father was quoted. And the sentiment was, I haven't heard from Sunnyvale in quite some time. I don't think they'll ever solve my daughter's case. I called him right away and I said, Mr. Stitt, I'm taking the case now. I will work it. And that conversation was short, and he basically told me, don't call me back until you do.
And as Hutch digs into the case, another unsolved murder in the same town just a few years earlier catches his attention.
A young security guard, 18 years old, stabbed to death inside of an office building.
She was a young girl still in high school.
There's parallels in these cases because they're both stabbed, and it's a complete, what we call a whodunit.
So what connection could there be between these two cases?
I learned to fly fish, and it became a godsend to me. Watching my fly go down the river and setting the hook is the only place where I can completely check out from the rest of the world. It recharges my batteries in a sense and gives me the ability to keep going. I wish that we were just catching fish and there wasn't a need to catch people, but this is my job.
Matt was always working on more than one case at a time because he would hit a dead end and he would just start working on another one.
Matt Hutchison is moving full speed ahead trying to solve the Karen Stitt case. But he's also competing with a backlog of current cases the department is trying to close. Sometimes all Hutch can do is wait and begin investigating other cold cases. And then there's the murder of Estela Mena. It was a mystery.
Absolute mystery. Estela came from a strong family. She didn't go out and socialize a lot. She did some martial arts, went to school, and worked.
Long before big tech became a big thing here in Silicon Valley, Western Electric was a leader in the communication business in Sunnyvale. Back in 1979, Estela Mena was a security guard working part-time there while still in high school.
She's 18 years old and she's still in school, but she's taking on such a serious job. I always just looked at it as a sign of her ambition and where she wanted to go in life.
On a Saturday afternoon in October, Estela was planning to attend a martial arts competition after work. She never made it.
It was a weekend where Western Electric didn't have all their employees going in and out of the business. There was less staff on scene. And one of the engineers who had been working upstairs, he's going to leave the business and he hears Estela in the corner struggling to live. He finds her on the ground, stabbed multiple times. She's not communicating with him about who stabbed her.
Attacked where she worked and murdered and tossed behind a vending machine.
The murder is in 1979. Hutch is on the case in 2018.
All right, what do we have here?
This is the overhead scene diagram from 1979 for the murder of Estela Mena. A common thing that crime scene investigators will do is an overhead view of the scene where a crime happened. They'll draw the vending machines, her desk in place, doors, certain things that don't move.
The other category Hutch focuses on are things that do move, items that seem out of place.
I look at things like the screwdriver in the middle of the room. How does that get there? Why is that there? Does it make any sense? Same with the comb. Same with the shoe.
The photo of Estella's shoe also catches the eye of Carol Smith, that volunteer who's been helping out in the cold case unit.
The other detectives that I had worked with suggested that it was probably above her head because the first responders, to get to her, they'd thrown it back over her head.
Carol, you said looking at the scene, it was your impression that the victim was a fighter. Why did you say that?
Because it starts this way and goes all the way to the other side of the lobby. And you can see there's buttons and combs and everything that trail that way. There's blood that trails throughout the lobby. And so, yeah, she fought the whole way.
But the young martial arts student is no match for a killer with a knife.
She didn't have no kind of weapon on her. She didn't have nothing, and she was a security guard, and most security guards do. They have either mace to spray in their eyes or some kind of, if not a gun, I mean a stick or you know, something for her to protect herself with. And she didn't have nothing like that.
Decades later, the family receives an unexpected phone call from Detective Hutch.
I did reach out early on and I said, I'm working this case. I know that there's a family on the other end of that case that's still waiting, and that's painful for them. And if it's painful for them, it's something that I want to try and do everything I can to fix.
By the time Hutch comes on board, Western Electric has ceased operations. The original investigators have long since retired, and the killer has a 39-year head start.
I've always picked up a cold case knowing that it is my goal to solve it, but that might be difficult and I may not succeed, but I can leave it better than I found it.
In the early stages of the investigation, the biggest lead was the smallest piece of evidence, a speck of blood.
When the crime scene was processed, the Sunnyvale detectives found a drop of blood on the door frame, the same door that the killer would have gone through.
I knew if we're ever going to solve it, we need to be able to answer who's the source of that blood.
You can't prosecute that case unless you know who the blood on the door frame is.
On the day of the crime, Western Electric was in the process of moving to another facility.
So the building itself had a lot of people that were in and out of there that weren't necessarily associated to the business.
Over time, investigators interview them all. The end result? Nobody knew anything. Nobody saw anything.
Thank you. Much like Karen's case, Estella's case gets under your skin and it sticks with you, and they won't let you give up.
Matt Hutchison is about to get some assistance from a very unlikely source.
I explained to them who my victim is and what the case is, and they are on board. How can we help you? What do you need from us to help solve this murder of this young girl? I said, I need a trash truck.
One of the best ways to find a killer is to get a sample of their DNA. And the best way to do that is to grab their trash.
This is your guy.
Matt Hutchison.
I didn't do anything wrong.
In my line of work, it's very common for people to lie to us. I want to see if I can rattle his cage a little bit. Any reason for your blood to be found inside that lobby? Nobody should have to see the things that were done to those two girls. But I'm fine with it being me if it means I can solve them.
And solve them by any means necessary.
Because if he sees you out the window, your cover's blowing.
I rode the truck as if I was just any other employee. Any reason for your blood to be found inside that lobby where this happened?
Juggling two cold cases. But is it the same killer?
We just needed to find a name to match that DNA.
That's what we look for. You have someone who was killed or stabbed or shot.
You gotta look at
and
everything.
that person, they're bloody all over.
So we just took our pool of suspects from millions to there's 3 men in the world that it could be.
Crucial work here.
A very crucial work.
And is one of them connected to this psychic?
You're not gonna make me cry, right? If you don't cry, I don't feel like I've done my job.
This is the one chance we're gonna get at it, and we can't screw it up.
Bingo.
We're going now. Because I have to go take care of Karen. I have to go take care of Estella. Oh, man.
Detective Matt Hutchison is stuck in the past by choice.
I'm fortunate to work cold cases in Sunnyvale.
Working case files pulled from a closet few others dare to enter.
I went in there, I almost turned around and went out and said I give up.
Instead, he starts working multiple cases at the same time, including 2 eerily similar stabbings. Karen Stitt, a 15-year-old stabbed multiple times while on her way to the bus. Estella Mena, an 18-year-old security guard attacked on the job at Western Electric. Both murdered, but by whom?
There's constant disappointment.
Can the man they call Hutch break the cases before the cases break him?
Oh, man. In the Estella Mena case, there was an entry-exit door to that lobby that had a small smear of blood on it.
They had found 1 drop of blood, obviously not the victim's blood. It was somebody else's blood. It was found a few feet away. They decided this must be the person.
We put it through CODIS, got no matches.
CODIS is a database that contains DNA profiles of convicted felons and people arrested for felonies in certain states.
If you didn't get a match, if you didn't get a hit, basically the approach for law enforcement is, well, there's nothing else we can do.
But the game changes with the arrival of forensic genetic genealogy. Now that same genetic profile found on the doorframe can be compared not to criminal databases, but to millions of profiles submitted to public genealogy websites.
We got back some genetic matches that were close relatives that quickly kind of identified one gentleman who lived in Southern California who could be the source.
It's the best lead investigators have had since 1979, a subject with a connection to Western Electric.
I went into the case file with the name of the subject that lived in Southern California, and he jumps off the page. He was an employee at Western Electric. He did a brief interview in 1979, a couple days after the homicide. He essentially said, "Hey, I'm an employee of the mailroom. I don't know anything about the homicide." So we devised a plan to try to collect his trash that he's left out at the curb. A partner and I fly down to Southern California where he lives.
But the execution of that plan is more complicated. Police surveillance reveals the subject puts out his trash just moments before the garbage truck comes down the street. So taking it in the middle of the night is not an option. You want the element of surprise, because if he sees you out the window, right, your cover's blown.
Our cover's blown, evidence could be gone, he could be prepared for the interview and come up with a story that I can't refute. When I get face-to-face with him, I want it to be the first time he knows we're investigating him.
So you gotta be able to surprise him.
Have to.
You gotta get creative.
I do. We actually contacted the trash company in this case and got them to give us a truck so that we could drive on the truck and collect the entire can.
You asked the trash company for a truck. Their reaction?
You know, at first they were like, this is not the type of thing that we do. And then I introduce them to my victim and I tell them the story. I tell them who she is and why this is important, why this is the only way. And then they're 100% on board.
It has to be realistic, right?
It has to look like every other trash day that he's ever had. It was important that I look exactly like another trash employee. So I had the vest on, I rode the truck as if I was just any other employee because we didn't want to give the impression anything was changed. They roll out the old beast that's been on the line for probably 15 years, and it's got 3 inches of just sludge.
Sludge.
Just disgusting. And I tell them, guys, we're gonna put samples of DNA into this thing. It has to be pristine We have to have a way to preserve this evidence. These trucks are designed so that when a can goes in, it smashes all the trash to make room for the next can. We disabled the compactor arm, and then we drove to a local hardware store and bought a big tarp and crawled up in there and rigged it up inside the truck so that when the can dumped in, we would catch just our trash and it wouldn't touch anything else, and we'd be able to drive away with it.
So then you hit the streets. You head to this guy's house, and what happens there?
The first thing I see is another one of these trucks half a block ahead of us, and I'm in full panic thinking this guy's gonna take our can. We got on the horn with him and said, you need to just blow by the address. He listened, thankfully, and when he goes by, we pull up and we make a left into this gentleman's court, and I see his can, and I know the game's on.
The trash is successfully deposited into the truck. Hutch is booked on the next flight to get back to Sunnyvale, but he can't let the evidence out of his sight.
We found a lot of cigarette butts, bottles, cans, anything that somebody puts in their mouth can be a source of DNA. And then I try to get through TSA with a suitcase full of trash, thinking that they're gonna put me on some sort of watch list or something. We were able to get on the plane, fly it back, and then my task is immediately take it to the crime lab because we want it tested right now.
Match or no match?
It's a match. We know who the source of the blood is inside our crime scene now. The work is on now. We have to prove that he's the one that did it.
Hutch returns to Southern California, and this time it's to come face to face with his prime suspect.
Hi, sir.
Well, this is your guy.
Matt Hutchison, I'm really sorry to ruin your day, and that's the copy of the search warrant.
Jesus. Why do we have to have a search warrant? I didn't do anything wrong.
I come back to Southern California, where the employee of Western Electric lives.
I think everyone assumed quite reasonably that the blood on the door frame that the killer went through has to be our killer.
When we arrived at his house, we had the local police department with us. We'll do this wherever you're comfortable. Okay, I appreciate it.
You want a cup of coffee?
I'm okay, thank you. I want to see if I can rattle his cage a little bit and make him uncomfortable, and maybe he'll slip up. In my line of work, it's very common for people to lie to you. Did you ever suffer any kind of injuries or have any accidents when you worked at Western Electric?
Not that I remember.
Maybe he'll say something, or maybe he'll give me some indication that he actually is the perpetrator in this case. This is one of the doors leaving the business. There's a blood smear.
You see it right there.
Any reason for your blood to be found inside that lobby where this happened?
I don't think so. Why would you kill a security guard? There was no money there.
He couldn't have been calmer or more cooperative.
Have a safe trip back.
Appreciate it.
I wish I could be more help, but I just...
When I look at that, I believe that he's credible, but he might just be a good actor. He might be just saying all the right things. I know I need more evidence than just the blood on the door. Can I put him somewhere closer to the victim, maybe on the victim's body, on her clothing, on some item that I know she touched and interacted with?
We need to look at all of the evidence all over again.
And as soon as I knew we were going to test other items, I came back to Carol's voice in my head saying, Matt, you have to test a shoe. You have to test a shoe.
The two of you talked about that shoe.
Yes.
Incessantly, apparently.
Yes. You can ask Matt, but yeah, I bugged him.
She made it very clear to me that she wouldn't speak to me again if we didn't test that shoe. The bottom line is that shoe should have been on her foot, and it's not anymore. And that only happens because it falls off during the fight.
Although they've seen the crime scene photos numerous times, neither Hutch nor Carol have seen the actual evidence until now. This really humanizes it.
You see a height and a weight on a piece of paper, just somebody's statistics, and that resonates in your brain. You see that, and then you hold something that belonged to them, and you see just how tiny she was. You can see the different areas that they sampled here, where you see a circle with pen. You can see a slight faint stain in there. Blood doesn't always come up like a bright red stain that's going to jump off the page at you.
From that tiny wedge shoe comes the answer Hutch has been looking for. The blood on that shoe is not just Estella's. There's also someone else's blood that doesn't match that former employee they've been pursuing. So, whose blood is it?
It's not the same guy that's on the door frame, which now throws a wrench into my case.
The unknown DNA is entered into CODIS, and this time, a hit.
There's a gentleman named Samuel Silva who lived in the state of Colorado, who was identified as the source of the blood that was on Estella's shoe and the DNA on her pants.
Sam Silva's killed before. He was a violent felon. He was arrested for rape. He was arrested for attempted murder. All of this in Colorado.
The main question now for the detective, was Samuel Silva ever in California? Hutch gets the answers by digging up Colorado probation reports, where officers once asked Silva if he ever lived outside of that state.
And when the probation officer asked him, well, where were you and what were you doing? He said, I was living in Sunnyvale, California with my two brothers in 1978, which would have put him in my city and possibly crossing paths with my victim.
Estella Mena was killed in 1979. The street in Sunnyvale where Silva lived was less than 2 miles from Western Electric. Matt Hutchison keeps digging. He finds a copy of a resume that belonged to Estella Mena. It turns out that before she worked at Western Electric, she worked here at Great America Amusement Park. And guess who else worked here?
Sam Silva also previously worked at Great America. We don't know if they knew each other for sure, but maybe that's where he got to know her.
And eventually, Carol, you hear the news that there's been a break in the case.
Matt called me immediately when he got the news, so this part always makes me teary because that was such a... I mean, that just gets to your heart. And all these years, yeah, to finally hear that we had gotten this one done, that was a big day.
But no matter how hard the detective keeps working the case, there'll be no arrest, no conviction. Samuel Silva had died years earlier.
I know I can never put handcuffs on him. I can never tell the family that we got him. You still have a job to do. When I go to the family and I say Samuel Silva is the person that did it, that's not all I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell them why I believe that. It is my belief that she was the intended target of him coming to that business, and that she either said no to him, I'm not interested, or whatever it was that initiated an assault from him, and she fought for her life.
It was Estella's sister Marta, seen here in a news report from our station KGO in San Francisco, who would grow up and coin a phrase that would one day make headlines.
Marta, apparently is a fairly religious person, told me that Matt had flew up and met with her. And she said that when he left, she turned to her husband and said, that's one badass detective.
There can be no better moment for me as an investigator than to tell them, it's done. We know who he is. He didn't get away with this.
Hutch is not done. Karen Stitt's killer is still very much alive, and the detective is closing in.
I'm going to put handcuffs on the person that murdered Karen Stitt.
In the decades-long mystery of who killed 15-year-old Karen Stitt, Sunnyvale has an answer of sorts.
We knew who the killer was, except for his name. We had his DNA profile. We just needed to find a name to match that DNA.
So they decide to enlist a lab on the East Coast that specializes in forensic genetic genealogy to try to figure out who their suspect is.
When we send the DNA off for genealogy, we're taking that blood that we know belongs to a male, converting it to a genealogical sample to see if we can match to any of his relatives. We can then try to work backwards and figure out who he is.
Hutch has a lot of hope, but it's immediately crushed.
We get back 3 very distant relatives, all third cousins. The advice from the lab was move on to a different case. You're not going to solve this one.
We're talking about people that are so remote, there's basically no chance that we're going to be able to build a family tree to narrow it down to this particular perpetrator.
They said, Matt, do you know your third cousins? And I don't know any of them, so it made sense to me that this is going to be an uphill battle.
He was a little bummed, but I know Matt, and I've known Matt for a long time, that wasn't going to keep him down for too long.
It's easy to feel sorry for yourself as a cold case investigator and say, well, these cases are so dang hard. If I don't solve it, nobody's going to get mad at me. I'm just going to put it away. I quickly learned that I couldn't have that kind of attitude with Karen. I took her picture and I put it up on my desk right behind my phone. She's staring at me, telling me, don't give up on my case, you can solve it.
If 3 third cousins are as close as he can get, Hutch decides to start there.
So I went about the task of, let me build this tree as big as I possibly can get it.
From what he can see online, one of those third cousins has already built out an extensive family tree, potentially crucial investigative leads. But first, Hutch has to convince that cousin to help him.
He left me a message, and I remember laughing, and I told my husband, wow, pranking and, identity theft has reached a new level. A couple days later, I received a text message. He sent me a picture of his business card and his officer badge on a table.
He offers to fly to Texas and meet her in person. Still skeptical, she insists that their first contact has to be in a safe place.
We met at the small police department where she lived and then told her who Karen was, told her why we needed her help, and she said, that's enough for me. Come back to my house and I'll give you everything I've got.
It really struck me. He cared about Karen, he cared about her family, he cared about what happened to her.
And so we rolled the family trees out on her kitchen table.
All of the profiles of people who were living were basically blacked out. And he asked me if I would be willing to fill in all the blank spots.
How many names did you wind up writing down for him?
I want to say it was at least 100. Once I knew the specifics of the case, I went back into my family tree and started looking for people that I thought could potentially be a suspect.
We're building the data, but we have no idea where to go with it at that point. I'm just waiting for something or someone to come along and help me.
And that's exactly what happens one day after Hutch gives a talk on cold cases at the Sunnyvale Library.
I get approached by 3 women afterwards, and they say, well, we're daughters of the American Revolution. So that sounds really neat. What the heck does that mean? And they said, well, we've chased our DNA all the way back to the American Revolution. I said, wow, you guys seem like you're the experts. Have you ever thought about working for a police department?
They keep their day jobs, but agree to volunteer on Karen's case, working with Hutch to fill in the blanks across the suspect's family tree. One day, his phone rings.
There was one genealogist that kind of took the lead amongst the rest of them, and she called me and said, we have something. And she didn't talk like that in any of the other times I'd ever talked to her, so I start getting excited. I'm like, we have the guy? She goes, no, we don't have the guy, but there's this person. If you go out and you get their DNA, we'll know if we need to go after that person's cousins or if we need to go after that person's uncles. He's local. He's in San Jose, which is 10 minutes down the road.
After a simple local trash grab one night, the results confirm Karen Stitt's killer is one of this man's 3 uncles.
So we just took our pool of suspects from millions And you're never going to solve it, according to the genealogy lab, to there's 3 men in the world that it could be. And I'm bouncing off the walls at this point. My partner, Corinne, and I figure out that one of the uncles is living in North Las Vegas, and we know his trash day. We're going to collect his trash early in the morning and drive it all the way back the very next day.
I was pretty excited, a little nervous. I remember it being very, very quiet. And it sounded like the loudest thing, just trying to pull the garbage bag out of the trash can. Nobody came out, but it felt like, you know, this is the loudest thing going on in the block. So we grabbed the trash and we immediately take off. We drove straight through the night back up to Santa Clara County.
And then our crime lab comes back and says, oh yeah, this guy, no, he's not the killer. But you know what? One of his brothers is the killer.
We've now shrunk the pool of suspects down to 2.
Determining which of the 2 brothers murdered Karen Stitt will require Matt and Corinne to go undercover and visit a psychic.
She got a fake wedding ring, and I wore my real one, of course, and we got our palms read, but we can't give her too much where it looks like we're cops.
You gotta be careful.
For all I know, she's gonna catch me.
Investigators Matt Hutchison and Corinne Abernathy are steadily narrowing down their suspects in the 40-year-old murder of Karen Stitt.
Through just working the leads and not giving up and building these family trees out, we narrowed it down to a group of 4 brothers.
There was a lot of case discussion on which route we would take.
And then it becomes a process of elimination. One by one, you got to go out and get their DNA. And that leaves us with 2 brothers, basically on opposite ends of the country. One was in Maine, and one was on the island of Maui in Hawaii.
It came down to Gary Ramirez and another brother. Gary lived in Maui.
We ultimately ended up in Hawaii. We didn't know too much about the individual in Hawaii.
We knew that he lived in Maui, but we didn't know precisely where. We had a good idea, but there was no way to verify if he was actually living in that particular house.
Some of the last records on file of where he may possibly reside was this residence.
So we had to get a little bit creative and see if there was a way that we could confirm that he was even living there. I did just an open source search on Google of the address, and there's a pin on the address that says that there's a local psychic.
A psychic?
She's the landlord of the house, and she does palm readings out of the residence itself. It's not every day that while you're investigating somebody, you have a ticket into their life and a way to get into their life without them knowing that you're there. And so we went as a married couple, and my partner got a fake wedding ring, and I wore my real one, of course, and we sat on her lanai and got our palms read.
Tell me your name again. Corinne. Corinne. Your name is? Matt. Matt. Okay. So he's more sensitive.
Oh, that sounds all right.
He is a very caring, compassionate man.
Yeah, absolutely. And he likes the truth.
I won't cry.
Oh, no.
You're not going to make me cry, right?
I try to make people cry. Oh, if you don't cry, I don't feel like I've done my job.
In the time that I've worked with him, we know each other very well, so it was very easy to play off him and vice versa. He play off of me. But Matt would definitely try to get a little bit of, information from her.
We created a backstory that we met at Fresno State. It's because our suspect who was living with her grew up in Fresno. We wanted to see if we drop a nugget, if she'll pick it up.
That's really smart.
I said I had a brother named Gary, to try to see if she would take the bait.
I've got 2 brothers, 2 older brothers, Gary and Jeff. They drive me crazy.
You got to be careful not to say too much and become too obvious.
It's a balancing act. And she might be a psychic. For all I know, she's going to catch me.
And it was a great opportunity for you.
If nothing else, we got a look at the layout of the residence so that when we go and eventually make contact there, we're not going in blind. I could hear rustling from a garage that sounded like there was people probably living in there, like it was a converted dwelling.
He was kind of lying low or just really under the radar, so that may have just been his normal pattern of life.
She never took any of the bait, she just took our money.
Forbidden by local laws from making a trash grab in Maui without a search warrant, Hutch and Corinne return to Sunnyvale and they devise a new plan. If they can test the DNA of the brother's biological child, that could tell them if they found Karen's killer.
The gentleman who lived in Maui had a daughter that lived in California.
We had another mission to go down to San Diego.
So same as Vegas, we devised a plan. We're gonna drive all the way down to Southern California, collect the trash, and drive it all the way back.
I remember walking down the street with a garbage bag and safety lights come on, just porch lights, and I felt like stadium lighting as I'm walking down the street with a trash bag. All I remember is I need to get back to the car and we gotta go.
And we were able to go out and get a sample of her DNA as a means of testing against the sample of blood at the crime scene and essentially doing a paternity test. And we brought them back up here for testing.
The crime lab report said, this is the daughter of the killer. And that's when we knew. It was Gary Ramirez.
Bingo.
The next step was to hook him up in Maui.
We're going now. We have him now, we're going now. So you hold on to that. The paperwork we have to notify you of here is a warrant for your arrest.
Once we knew that Gary was our guy, we filed a complaint charging him with murder.
We're gonna go and make an arrest in Hawaii.
Did you know he was going to be there?
We had a Maui detective call Gary and say, you might be the victim of identity theft, can you call us back? And when we landed and tried to do a briefing with the local authorities, he called and said, I want to meet with you guys right now.
Bingo.
Everybody sitting around that briefing table looked at each other and said, we're going now. As we pulled up, I saw Gary Ramirez.
Yeah, how you doing, sir?
I recognized him from his photos.
Yeah, we just have to verify who we're talking to so we make sure we have the right investigation going. Do you have your ID? Do you have an ID? No, I have a military ID.
Okay. Is that something that we can see? The paperwork we have to notify you of here is a warrant for your arrest. So I'm gonna hold on to this. We're gonna do this right away, right after that for you. I'm not gonna let you fall down or anything like that. Go ahead and turn that way and just keep your hands behind your back for you. I knew 10 seconds from now, I'm gonna put handcuffs on the person that murdered Karen Stitt. And they're not just any handcuffs. I took my stepdad's handcuffs from when he was an officer in the city of Sunnyvale because I wanted some representative of Karen from 1982 to be part of that arrest.
It meant that much to you.
It meant that much to me, but I knew it meant that much to his generation of cops.
Oh no, what happened? What did I do? It's something that's really old that we would be happy to talk to you about and share more information. Oh no, what did I do? So I'm gonna walk with you so we're not standing right by the house. Can you walk forward for me?
His reaction?
He tried to express surprise, but it didn't come off genuine to me at all.
We'll get him to the car and then we'll explain it. We have a warrant for his arrest. I don't know what I did.
For somebody to be accused of something so heinous, if they know they didn't do it, I would have expected much stronger denials. You have the wrong person. This is wrong.
This is the penal code for murder. What did I do? What? No, something's wrong.
Hutch and Corinne drive Gary Ramirez to Maui's police department to be processed and questioned.
This is kind of the moment, especially for Matt, where you ultimately want to try to get as much information as you can and just get the truth.
Can I come in, Gary?
Hi, Gary.
What's that? Thank you.
The way he conducts those interviews, he's so good at getting people to be comfortable. It's a work of art.
You're saying it's not you. I want as much explanation for how it's not you as possible so I can go find the guy that it is then.
Sure.
My goal in this is not to put the wrong guy in custody. I was careful not to tell him Karen's name, not to tell him the city of Sunnyvale. I wanted him on the defense. I wanted him to not know what I knew.
And you said you used to work in sales, right?
Yes.
And you said car sales while you were in college?
Yeah, I was in college, yeah.
The violent nature of Karen's murder led me to believe that he could be responsible for other murders. I want to learn as much as I can about him.
So Denver, Colorado, Libya, where'd you do your basic training?
Lackland?
Where's Lackland? Texas?
Texas.
So you didn't even get to get stationed anywhere in California close to home or anything?
No. It's all right. I had fun.
We talked to him about the places he had lived, jobs that he had.
Jones Cleaners, I worked for them.
And Jones Cleaners was out of Fresno?
Yeah.
Vehicles that he drove.
I think I sold the Mustang, and then I got the van. I always wanted the van. I wanted to fix it up, you know, but I just never got around to it. I mean, you wouldn't want a van when you're young and you say, go hang out, party, stuff inside.
Yeah? Did you ever have parties inside? Like, I know people would put like black light in there.
I never had a girl in there.
But remember, Hutch always believed it was possible Karen had been murdered in a vehicle and then left in that alley.
We spent probably more than 2 hours with Gary before we ever talked about this case at all.
That's strange, right?
Very strange to me. And I actually confronted him about that.
It's curious to me that you're under arrest for murder and you don't have any questions about that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
You know what murder is, though, right?
Yeah.
Killing a person?
Yeah.
Have you ever killed a person, Gary?
No.
When I told him, you're not even asking me what agency I work for, his response was, I know what agency you're from.
You already told me. San Francisco.
I didn't tell you that. I don't work in the city of San Francisco.
Immediately, it's like a light bulb in my head thinking, what did you do in San Francisco that's causing you to believe that San Francisco police has shown up on your doorstep?
Where do you work?
I work in the city of Sunnyvale, Gary.
Where?
Sunnyvale.
Okay. I don't know who that is.
That's a 15-year-old girl, Gary.
That's all? Doesn't ring a bell? Is that the right word?
Okay. Is there any reason you can think of that I would have blood evidence and that blood belongs to you?
I don't know how that would happen. I don't know how that would happen.
Are you curious how she was killed?
That's horrible. Yes, how was she killed?
You stabbed her 60 times, Gary.
Oh my God, no, I didn't do anything like that. This is awful, you guys.
He invokes his right to an attorney.
You guys are accusing something I didn't do. I'd like to have a lawyer if it's okay with you guys.
And that means I'm done. I can't talk to him anymore. I've got to shut it down and walk out of the room.
You got it, Gary.
Even without a confession, Hutch is sure he has Karen's killer in custody, but he's waiting for one final confirmation.
The DNA all says he did it. But the ultimate answer for prosecution and for me as a detective...
Open your mouth. I'm going to swab one on each side.
...is when we put that swab inside of his cheek and have that tested directly against the blood. Now we're going 1-to-1. Is this the same person?
A Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety detective flew it back, brought the sample to the lab.
They worked this case 24 hours until they got the result.
By about 3 a.m., I had the DNA results. I compared it to the evidence from the blood stain from the jacket, and it was an exact match.
And I remember being in bed, but something told me, wake up and look at your computer. And I had an email from the crime lab, and it said, Gary Ramirez is the person that killed Karen Stitt. Just like I had her picture at my desk all these years, I had her picture on my computer, and I pulled it up and I said, Karen, we did it.
Hutch then calls Karen's loved ones, who have waited 40 years for the news he's finally able to deliver.
I was just overwashed with emotion. I'm amazed and grateful that this day it finally came.
Oh my God, 40 years later.
You had never heard of this man prior to this?
No, not at all. It was shocking to me when he told me how old he was. I was bitter, to be perfectly honest with you, that this man got to live a full life And in return, we lost Karen.
When it's time to go to court, the man who loved Karen will finally face the man who killed her.
I wanted to be there whenever he was present. I wanted to make eye contact with him, straight-faced eye contact.
But I want him to say I'm guilty, and I want him to explain what he did.
The case against Gary Ramirez never went to trial. Instead, the elderly Ramirez pleaded no contest for the murder of Karen Stitt.
A maximum sentence for 78-year-old Gary Ramirez for first-degree murder.
He was never separately charged for Karen's sexual assault.
He entered court with a cane, long gray hair, and glasses, and sat silently looking forward or down as victims read their statements.
Just everything came back about what he did to her and how brutal he was to her and how he threw her away like trash. But I was able to get through it, told him what I thought about him, and I hope he heard every word.
She was stabbed nearly 60 times. He was just looking straight ahead, so there was no eye contact or no reaction from him when any of us spoke.
I would love to talk to Gary Ramirez. Tell me what happened that night, why he chose Karen, where he chose Karen, just to be honest and tell the truth instead of, copping out and pleading no contest.
40 years of freedom, lived through the prime of his life, probably acting like nothing happened, He may even still try to deny it in his own head.
There's a cost to solving cold cases, a psychological one.
They're gonna haunt me too. There's just no way around that. They get into your soul, and these cases will affect me for the rest of my life.
There's also an emotional toll paid. For Matt Hutchison, providing closure for other families sometimes comes at the expense of his own.
There's times I have to give my little boys a hug and a kiss goodbye and say, I'm gonna be gone for 3 or 4 days, and you're not gonna understand why. But what I always try to do is I would tell my sons, I need you to work the case with me. And they'd say, well, what does that mean, Dad? And it says, I'd say, you take care of Mom, because I have to go take care of Karen. I have to go take care of Estella.
Hutch gets to know each of the families, and the Mena family has treated him with open arms.
They're almost like extended family now. They call me Sobrino,
wow.
which is really cool.
Sobrino means nephew.
After her case was solved, they held a memorial mass for her, and they invited me to be a part of it. And then afterwards, they had a reception, and I got to just sit with her family and hear stories that don't make it into a police report.
Matt Hutchison will be the first to say he didn't solve these cases alone.
It was all of us. It's not just me. I was able to still test blood and clothing and different things and get DNA on them 40 plus years after the crime because the investigators collected them.
They had no idea about DNA technology then, but the evidence they collected is what ultimately led to both of these cases being solved.
I think it's really significant and impactful that both in the Karen Stitt case and in the Estella Mena case, key players and key personnel were volunteers.
You ever allow yourself to acknowledge that you were so much more than just a volunteer file clerk?
That's what I did, though.
Some people would call you a hero.
No. I was organizing files, helping Matt.
And you do it all over again.
Absolutely.
I'll do whatever I can to get more of these cases worked. If more of them get worked, more of them get solved. And I hope all the Gary Ramirez's of the world and the Samuel Silvas of the world are living in fear for the knock on the door that's coming.
A promise and a warning backed up by the numbers. Detective Hutch tells us that he's very close to making an arrest on an 8th cold case. Now, of course, we'll stay on that.
Absolutely, we will. And while he continues to investigate, Hutch has not connected Gary Ramirez to any additional crimes in California. We reached out to Ramirez for comment, David, but we did not hear back. That's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir from all of us here at ABC News in 2020. Good night.
An all-new 2020 starts right now.
Sheriff's office, make yourselves known.
No, it's just all crawl space.
This is a dark, creepy space. You got to be ready for anything.
Absolutely. The clock was ticking. We needed to find them.
The steepest stairs I've ever seen.
The Haldersons are gone. They're missing.
Well, what do you mean they're missing? I can't even comprehend what that means.
The story is a couple came and picked them up and took them to the cabin.
And nobody knew who that couple was.
There was a concern that Bart and Krista had been kidnapped by this couple that picked them up early that morning.
There were all these questions. For each answer you get, there are 17 more questions.
What's going on in the household? You know, what aren't we discovering?
This case really highlighted how social media tracks everything. And that became so crucial.
I was like, hey, where you at? Where you at? Like, you're not responding to me on Snapchat.
You've got to get to that cabin. You've got to get to that cabin right now to figure out what happened.
Our mind goes to, did the worst happen?
So what happens next?
He kind of had the craziest phone call that I had in my law enforcement career. He couldn't say much, but I should probably watch the news the next day.
Holy. I don't really have words for it, to be honest.
4th of July. It's a day when people come together to celebrate our independence and the spirit of America. And that's what you'll see in Madison, Wisconsin.
4th of July celebrations have been going on all weekend, but of course Americans are going all out today.
The lakes are really core to the identity of Madison. Just being around water, being around nature is really big to a lot of people here.
Madison is Wisconsin's gorgeous capital city. Built on a strip of land connecting Lakes Monona and Mendota, generations of families have come here to lay roots. But as residents of a small town just north of here would come to know, secrets, lies, and betrayal don't stop at these shores.
Bart and Krista Halderson lived in a community called Windsor, just north of Madison. Everyone who knew the Haldersons loved them.
We used to have a horseshoe league. Bart and Krista were on a horseshoe team. We competed against them 2-3 times a year. And just being neighbors, they were just people that ran into all the time. Absolutely salt of the earth people were Bart and Krista. Their house always looked good. It was well manicured, it was well mowed, it was always taken care of.
There were competitions in the neighborhood about who had the best lawn and who cared the most about their yards, and Bart cared about his yard.
Krista is an administrative assistant for a local auto shop, and Bart is an accountant.
Bart and Krista, they weren't rich, but they were comfortable.
Yeah, they were just regular people trying to do their best.
She was the youngest cousin, bright red hair. She was the baby of the family.
Barbie Townsend grew up in Southern California, but would often visit her younger cousin Krista at the family's rustic cabin in northern Wisconsin.
Krista was fun, energetic, creative. She just was very exuberant, very outgoing.
Happy person, it sounds
Very
like.
happy, yeah. Loved her lot in life.
I know you got to know Bart a little bit later, but what was he like?
I was happy for her that she found her person, and they were a really good team.
They complemented each other.
Definitely, definitely. You know, he would have his strengths and she would have her strengths, but they always were together.
Barbie told me that nothing matters more to Krista and Bart than their two sons, Mitchell and Chandler.
They poured themselves into their children. They did family nights, game nights. They would cook dinner, barbecue together. In the spring 2021, Krista had sent a picture of them all standing together. She was so proud of them. Mitchell had been with his girlfriend at that time about 7 years, and Chandler had been with Kat maybe 2 years, on and off.
Mitchell, the oldest, works in IT, and he lives with his fiancée, not far from his parents' home. And Chandler, an Eagle Scout, is a young man on the rise. He's working part-time for an insurance company, living at home while finishing his college degree. And that's not all.
Chandler had told his family about this great job opportunity he had been given with SpaceX. He would move to Florida, and actually he would bring his girlfriend with him.
Everything was going well for everyone. I don't know any family who wouldn't want to be in the situation the Haldersons were in.
But in June of 2021, the Haldersons' good fortune takes a turn.
Their eldest son, Mitchell, was diagnosed with diabetes. And then right after that, their younger son, Chandler, fell down a flight of stairs at the Haldersons' home.
He was taken to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with a head injury.
In that picture, on Father's Day of 2021, standing next to Bart, he's got the brace on. His neck was injured and was going to affect his ability to walk. He might have a colostomy bag. He couldn't fly, so he couldn't go back to Florida for the job. Like his whole life was going to change because he had this fall.
I know once he was in that neck brace, his job situation with SpaceX was kind of pushed on the back burner.
It seemed like he would not be able to take the job at SpaceX. He wouldn't be able to help around the house. He wasn't even able to walk properly. And after that, Chandler required help. His mother would assist him going up and down stairs, would bring him meals.
Although Krista doted on her sons in their time of need, she rarely missed a day of work. So on Friday morning, July 2nd, when she fails to show up at her job, co-workers are concerned.
Krista was one of these people who was always at work, and she always let people know what her plans were.
It's a Friday right before the 4th of July holiday, but she hadn't asked off. She hadn't told anyone she wasn't going to be there. It was really unusual for her to not show up for work. She'd never done it before.
She wasn't answering her phone. A co-worker decided to go over to the house and make sure she was okay. When he looked in the garage, both of the Haldersons' cars were there.
The Haldersons aren't here. Their cars are here. Where are the Haldersons?
Now, the Haldersons have a family cabin they love to go to on weekends. And initially there's some speculation that this is where Bart and Krista are. But none of the neighbors saw them leave.
As far as we know, no one saw the Haldersons that day.
They told their neighbors when they were going up to the cabin, who they were going to be with, where they were going to be. So for there to be so many unknowns about what happened that weekend was a little unusual.
And when Krista fails to make a medical appointment on Monday, it really raises red flags.
She was recovering from some skin cancer, and so this was an important appointment for her.
Is it like her to just miss that appointment or not tell anybody she wasn't going to make it?
No, Chris is not the person that would just not show up.
Everyone who knows her says she wouldn't have missed that appointment. She was planning to be there, and then she wasn't. And that's when people really start to get concerned, because no one knows where Bart and Krista are.
All of a sudden, my wife comes in the bedroom and she says, the Haldersons are gone. They're missing. My mind went to the bad spot, like, that is not right. It was just kind of disturbing for somebody that I know that well to suddenly be gone.
What's going through your mind?
Something's really wrong. I don't know what and why and how, but something's really wrong.
The strange disappearance of Bart and Krista Halderson is a mystery, captivating local Wisconsiners.
Are we rolling?
We're rolling now.
Including a pair of podcasters.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Richard.
And we do the True Crime Brewery podcast. We're very fascinated with true crime and just love to really figure out what's going on behind the scenes.
Ready.
So, we've been talking more and more about these cases.
Their podcast, as the name suggests, mixes suds.
We pick a beer from the area the crime occurred.
With sleuthing.
Today we're covering a case from Wisconsin.
And have I got a beer for you?
I feel like it brings together the personality of the city where the crime happened. Bart and Krista Halderson, they are just everybody's neighbor, everybody's family member, just working hard, trying to take care of their children, trying to provide the best for their family.
Bart and Krista just loved the 4th of July. You could always catch them at the parade. It was probably their favorite holiday.
But that weekend, in July 2021, strangely, the couple are nowhere to be found.
Bart and Krista had not told anyone that they had a plan to go away for 4th of July weekend.
There's no explanation forthcoming as to why they're not there.
So the only time people heard from Bart and Krista over the 4th of July weekend was when Krista texted Chandler on July 4th.
The text to her son Chandler says they arrived at the family cabin 3 hours north. It read, "Made it safely. Love you lots."
Their friends learned that she had reached out to him, which made sense. She was a mom who talked to her kids all the time.
This is where we hung out and collected rocks and played games. So this is early on. It's my dad, and that's the cabin in the background.
And that's Krista right there.
This is Krista.
I can always tell Krista by that shock of red hair.
Fiery red hair.
Yeah.
And she was the youngest.
The cabin has been in Barbie and Krista's family since the 1940s, when it was built by their grandfather.
That was like the heart and soul of our extended family. The cabin was our way to get back together and be together. There was no phone, no indoor plumbing, very rustic.
Sounds like this was a place where you and Krista really bonded.
The cabin was where we would reunite.
Chandler had told family members he knew his parents were going to the cabin for the weekend, but he was expecting them home by Tuesday the 6th. Now, Tuesday's come and gone, and the couple seems to have vanished.
How did you learn that Bart and Krista were missing?
I got an email from my cousin that said, "Please pray, Bart and Krista are missing." And I remember thinking, what do you mean they're missing? I can't even comprehend what that means. And so we started calling cousins, like, what's happening?
On July 7th, 6 days after Bart and Krista were last seen, Chandler heads to the Dane County Sheriff's Office to report his parents missing.
Chandler says, "I haven't seen my parents. We need to start looking for them."
Detectives Sabrina Sims and Brian Shunk will lead the investigation, and they meet with Chandler later that day at the Halderson home in Windsor.
At that point, you're here just trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, just to ask more follow-up questions and trying to get the timeline of events.
His parents left around 5 a.m., basically left without a peep. From everything that you knew about Bart and Krista, was that the kind of thing they do?
No, we were learning from friends and family that that's completely out of character for them to not tell people where they were going.
Chandler tells detectives that his parents planned to fix a water pump and a fire pit up at the cabin, and that both were damaged in a recent storm. So he says he helped them pack supplies, including a pipe wrench, a hatchet, and gas cans for a chainsaw.
He also said that they brought alcohol and cash with them.
He mentioned they were maybe going to a casino to go gambling. We learned that it's out of character for them to go gambling and that the Haldersons, especially Bart, was pretty frugal with his money.
When investigators inspect the Halderson home, they see both Bart and Krista's cars are still in the garage.
Both their cars are still there. So what's going on with that? Chandler says, well, they went with this other couple. I don't know who they are, but they took the other couple's car.
Chandler tells detectives that his parents left in an unknown vehicle And when detectives review neighbors' home security cameras, they spot a white van driving down the Halderson Street in the early morning hours on Friday, July 2nd. Could this van be the vehicle driven by that mystery couple?
We were looking for a van. It was an unknown vehicle, and then we saw it on surveillance camera.
Hoping he might know who the couple is, investigators speak to Chandler's older brother Mitchell, who lives close by. But he says as far as he knows, none of his parents' friends went with them to the cabin.
Nobody knew who that couple was. No phone numbers, no names, nothing. I mean, for them to drive up to the cabin with somebody that nobody even knew who they were, that was very odd. Where's the other couple? That was the other thing. Where's the other couple? Because no one's heard from them, whoever they are.
They're gone. Their cars are here. What are you thinking?
I think at that point we decided we need to send a team up to the cabin.
You've got to get to that cabin right now to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
I have to imagine your mind starts going to terrible places.
Yeah, your mind starts thinking all kinds of things.
And when investigators finally reach the cabin in the woods,
Sheriff's office, make yourselves known.
what or who will be lurking in the shadows?
Small crawl space. Holy.
I'm Bill Callender. I'm a member of the Wolf River Fire Department and Rescue in Langlade County, northeast Wisconsin. With all the recreation we've got here, and we've got a big area, people do get turned around, they go missing, and then that's usually then when we get called out. The Wolf River area is really a nice area, fairly lightly populated, but we've got a lot of great recreation. We've got the Wolf River, very popular fishing stream, lots of recreational opportunities. We've got the rapids on the river go up to Class 3. We've got heavily wooded area. Much of our township is in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest.
And Wolf River is the area where Bart and Krista Halderson had their family cabin, and where they were supposed to spend the 4th of July weekend.
It's a beautiful place, but it can be a dangerous place. Like anywhere that's completely natural and completely wild, there are pitfalls to that. A river can easily become someplace you drown. The woods can easily become someplace you're lost. And so it's not unheard of for people to go missing in this area.
Now, back in July of 21, our chief got a call from one of the Langlade County deputies and said that, we may be needed.
Cell service isn't fantastic out here either. Weather always seems to change, but crime never does.
I'm Detective Sergeant Groans with Langlade.
On July 8th, I received a call to assist the Dane County Sheriff's Office with a search of the Halderson cabin. As an investigator, I was assigned a body camera, which was activated when we arrived at the property.
What's your relation? You're their son. Okay, all right.
So this footage we're looking at here, it's recorded by your body camera.
That's correct.
Okay. And who are you speaking to here?
This was Mitchell Halderson and his fiancée.
1 week after his parents mysteriously vanished, Mitchell tells investigators that he's so concerned about his parents' well-being that he and his fiancée make the 3-hour drive north to the cabin.
They seemed concerned and also as perplexed as we were about Bart and Krista Halderson's whereabouts.
Maybe we could just take a walk around and see you.
So at that point, we took a walk around the exterior of the property. We noticed that the grass and the weeds had not been kept up. In some places it was waist or even chest high.
Did it look like the cabin had been in use?
It certainly didn't look like it had been used anytime recently.
They start walking around, and everything's still locked up. The grass is really tall.
What first struck me when they were walking, I was like, that's our cabin. That's our family cabin.
Was there a sense of urgency at this point?
With the information we had and things not really making sense, our possibilities were dwindling. I was starting to just wonder what we were going to find next.
And I was worried they were going to be inside. That's what I thought. Something went horribly wrong. Yeah, that was very disturbing.
Sheriff's office, anybody inside?
There was a concern that Bart and Krista had been kidnapped by this couple that picked them up early that morning, and something had been done to them by them.
Announce your presence, make yourselves known.
I think the police were very concerned that they were going to find 2 dead people there.
But once inside, despite everyone's worst fears, the cabin appears empty to police.
It was dark, so you could tell nobody had been there for a while.
Every single indication shows that this cabin has been empty.
The steepest stairs I've ever seen.
As Detective Groans makes his way through the cabin, he spots a door to the cellar. So right about here, you draw your gun. Why?
Yeah, whenever we go into an unknown space, that's something that we would do just in our own safety.
So for an outsider, this is a dark, creepy space. You got to be ready for anything.
Absolutely.
What's a little crawl space? Holy.
But nothing there either.
Nobody inside and nothing looks like it's disturbed.
So after searching the cabin, investigators make their way down to the lake to check on the shed.
There's all these outbuildings, boathouses and sheds, and all these little tiny buildings that could offer places for people to be. My thought was that Krista was being held in one of those. That's what I thought.
Was there any concern that they might have been held captive in a place like this or been held against their will?
With the padlocks on the outside, it is something that we definitely considered.
They break the padlock on the boathouse, but Bart and Krista are nowhere to be found.
I don't know a ton of details about everything that's gone on.
You're filming Mitchell. What are you hearing from him at this point?
Mitchell seemed concerned, and I feel as we went further into the search and we weren't finding any signs of Bart and Krista, his concern became more and more greater as the search of the property continued.
He said his brother texted him that they did make it safely.
Out of like reading back through stuff, they just said we're going up north.
So at this point, for you, this is a mystery, right?
This is definitely a mystery. We don't know who Bart and Krista are believed to be with. There are no signs of Bart and Krista being at this property.
Do you know, did they have any friends, like they might have gone to their cabin in the area?
I have to assume they came up to someone else's cabin, but I don't know.
Really nowhere for us to even suggest looking next at this point. We didn't have anywhere to go. We didn't have a name. We didn't have a vehicle. We didn't have a location. Truly looking for a needle in a 900 square mile haystack.
And then the question is, okay, if they're not at the cabin, where are they?
There were no bodies, there was no anything. So we didn't know what happened, but of course your mind goes to, did the worst happen? Are Bart and Krista still alive?
As investigators and volunteers prepare to scour the county in search of the missing couple, news is spreading about Bart and Krista's disappearance.
We have team coverage on these breaking developments. Bart Halderson and his wife Krista have not been seen since July 1st.
What happens next?
Had the craziest phone call that I had in my law enforcement career. He said that our services were really no longer needed at that point, and then said that he couldn't say much, but I should probably watch the news the next day.
Authorities are still searching for a Windsor couple who have not been seen in days.
My wife is pretty shook up too. I mean, they're a very nice couple, very nice family.
It's been a week since Bart and Krista Halderson were last seen. And while Mitchell Halderson is up at the family cabin searching for his parents, his younger brother Chandler is back home in Windsor, canvassing the neighborhood. He's seen on the neighbor's home security camera footage obtained by investigators. What are you seeing on the home security footage later?
Chandler was going around to neighbors. You would see that they had Ring cameras or some type of security cameras on the outside of their homes. So he was going and asking them, if they had reviewed the video footage.
Remember, one of those neighbors' home security cameras captured this mysterious white van, but it led investigators to a dead end. And yet, Chandler presses on. Chandler is recorded on one Ring camera asking a neighbor about their security system.
Hoping anyone would have like security cameras and stuff like that.
We do.
He's going from neighbor to neighbor asking them, hey, this camera, I see it. Does it point at the road? Does it see our driveway? What does this see?
Thank you.
Take care of things.
Take care.
Bye.
Chandler approaches another neighbor's house and waves to the camera.
My name is Chandler Halderson. I live just down the road.
Oh, yes.
And there's one house where they have more of a professional surveillance system on the home. So he speaks to the woman there.
If you were able to capture the road or my house?
They discuss camera angles and whether their camera has night vision.
He discovers that one is a wide-angled camera. He looks to see what part of the street that would cover.
Yeah, did it capture anything on?
We don't know.
You can see he's really sleuthing, trying to uncover whatever evidence these neighbors may have.
He was asking questions such as, can you see the road? Can you see vehicles drive by? He's out trying to figure out if anything was seen on the outside of his home at that point, you know, from when his parents went missing.
He asks, could there be any footage of my parents being driven away early in the morning on the 2nd? Do you have any footage? It would be maybe helpful to the investigation to see what kind of car picked them up, of course.
One household actually told him that police had already collected the video.
The police actually came and downloaded everything they have. So they were here, I think till like 9 o'clock last night, and downloaded all the video she's got.
Chandler walks up to yet another neighbor's house and rings their bell. The neighbor, a retired detective with the Madison Police Department, tells Chandler to meet him in the garage so that they can talk.
Hey, I'll meet you in the garage, okay?
Okay.
The neighbor says he had a gut feeling that he should record the conversation, which he would later turn over to police.
Sorry about what's going on.
What it is, but I was wondering if your door camera...
We do have it right now.
Does it pick up the road?
Some, yes, some it does.
Would you have any notifications from Friday morning early before 6:15?
We can check. That's not a problem.
Chandler's quest doesn't end there.
Bart and Krista Halderson of Windsor had plans for the 4th.
He heads to WKOW, an ABC news station in Madison, which has been broadcasting Bart and Krista's photo.
At this point, Chandler, he talks to reporters.
But Chandler says he's reticent to go on camera, saying he fears retaliation from whoever may have taken his parents.
He thinks people might be targeting him. He says, is someone out to get my family? I don't want to be on camera, but I want people to hear from me. I want people to know I'm looking for my parents. And so he does an interview with a reporter from our station.
Their son, Chandler Halderson, who asked to be off camera, says whoever his parents were traveling with from this neighborhood were to do the driving. He says he received a text from his mother.
She got back to me. They made it safely. Their plans were going up with their friends and do some minor repairs on our cabin.
Did you literally see them pulling out of the driveway heading out?
No.
With the town now buzzing about the missing couple, Chandler's back at home, and he notices a different kind of activity outside his window.
Chandler sees this uptick in police activity outside his house, so he calls Detective Schunk to find out what's happening. That phone call was recorded.
He was asking if everything was okay. He was asking why there were so many police in his neighborhood.
A little confused. I got 2 squads parked right outside my house. Is everything all right?
And I had to explain to him, you know, we were canvassing the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're probably doing reports.
All right.
Any news on your end at all? Have you gotten any phone calls, text messages?
Gotten any messages other than from concerned parents?
Well, I'll keep you posted if I hear anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later that night, Chandler comes voluntarily into the Dane County Sheriff's Office, where investigators bring him into this room and seat him in this chair.
So if you just want to have a seat right there, perfect. Thank you so much.
This?
Sure, that's fine.
He's wearing a baseball cap, a sweatshirt, and a furrowed brow.
Just so you know, I'm gonna record stuff, okay?
In that police interview, Chandler talks about the last meal he had with his parents on July 1st, right before they left for the cabin.
That's where they told me while we were eating it, they were gonna go with their friends, and I was like, oh, cool.
And they said they were going to the cabin.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. We're going up north. That's how they referred to it.
Chandler says that by the next morning, his parents had left, never to be heard from again, except for that one reassuring text from his mother.
Nothing else. Yeah, so that's fishy to me.
But investigators are skeptical too, and here's why. They know something Chandler doesn't.
I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth.
Investigators have asked Chandler Halderson to come in for an interview, and they've also asked for his girlfriend, Kat Melender, to come in as well. Both agree to come in voluntarily, and they're in separate rooms while police act on a new tip that's come to their attention.
A farmer in Cottage Grove, a town about 20 miles away from the Halderson home in Windsor, reports a suspicious sighting earlier in the week.
That's when they find something that really changes this entire investigation.
One of the residents at the farm said that Chandler had come over to the house on July 5th with a vehicle and backed it up against some wooded property and saw him walking from the wooded area and found that to be unusual.
You start searching the farm. You notice something overhead. What was that?
One of the detectives noticed what he believed to be turkey vultures flying around over the wooded portion.
What is a turkey vulture?
Turkey vultures are large birds that feed off typically dead animals. They're scavengers.
What does that trigger in your mind?
He said that from his past professional experience, it kind of indicates that, you know, there's something dead in the area.
And was this in the area or a similar area where Chandler's car had been parked?
Yes. So the detective ended up walking the path that he believed that Chandler was on.
They start to look a little bit closer. They go into the woods and then they see a pile that doesn't look normal.
There, amidst the matted grass, investigators discover what appears to be the torso of an unidentified male body.
It was determined that the individual was shot, dismembered after they were killed.
Hidden inside an oil drum near the body, investigators find a pair of scissors, a saw blade, and bolt cutters. But even with this grisly discovery, investigators will have to wait for the medical examiner to confirm that it is indeed Bart Halderson.
I mean, things at that point really changed for everybody in the case.
So right there, at that moment, this goes from a missing persons case to a homicide.
Yes.
But here's what else has investigators intrigued. That farm has a link to someone very close to the Haldersons.
So the farm in Cottage Grove, it's Chandler's girlfriend's family. They're there over 4th of July weekend. They're celebrating.
While you have Chandler, you have Kat in another room.
Oh, there's a Pooh Bear?
All right, you can play with it if you want to.
Kat draws a smiley face on a sequin pillow and clutches a Winnie the Pooh bear. A detective offers Kat a cookie to help put her at ease.
I can't eat well when I'm nervous, so. Okay. Take a nibble of the cookie. Yeah. Baby steps.
Sure there's no chocolate in there.
Yeah. Test the water to make sure the police aren't trying to poison me.
No, we're not.
So tell me about what's happening here.
We just wanted to hear her side of the story as she's the one that was closest to Chandler.
Talking to Kat Melender, investigators find out that Chandler visited the farm on the 4th of July with her, but the next day he returns to the farm alone, unannounced.
No one really knew he was coming. He came there alone.
Chandler went to the farm because my mom's fiance lets him walk in the pool because it helps stretch out his legs, make him feel better.
Except he wasn't using the pool. Kat's mom and her fiancé say they saw his car parked on the property, but no sign of Chandler. Until...
when they're in the pool, they look up and they see Chandler now walking. He doesn't have his shirt on. He comes to the pool and says, "Hey, can I get in the pool too?"
He was supposed to be there swimming in the family pool because he needed to swim for some therapy he needed to do. He was not swimming. She saw him coming from the wooded area and found that to be unusual.
Oh, okay. So what struck her is while he was supposed to maybe be there to swim for his therapy, he was not swimming.
Correct.
What I find interesting is you ask her, would anybody want to harm the Haldersons?
Any friends or relatives that they've been having problems with that you can think of? No?
No. I just can't see someone killing them. Like, that's the thing. Like, Like, I thought, like, maybe they got into a car accident, like, maybe their car's on the side of the road, like, I even thought, like, maybe that happened and someone took them to the hospital and they're just Jane and John Doe. Like, if someone killed them, it would have to be someone they, like, didn't know.
She seems generally like, are you kidding me? No, not them, not them. What do you make of that? What do you make of her response to whether or not somebody would want to harm them?
I think that she's telling an accurate story there. Talking to friends and family members, no one would want to hurt the Haldersons.
Did you get the sense that she thought that Chandler had anything to do with this?
You don't think he had anything to do with his mom and dad being unheard from?
No. No. All my friends I've talked to, they're like, no, not Chandler, no. Like, that'd be crazy. I just don't see him killing Mr. and Mrs. Halderson. Like, he had SpaceX. Like, why would he jeopardize something he, like, would dream of?
I don't think she thought he had anything to do with it.
Not even suspicions, not even maybe, just nothing to do with it. Couldn't be Chandler.
Now remember, detectives in that interview room haven't told Chandler about any of these discoveries they've made, but that's about to change.
How does him not knowing about that human torso affect the way you interview him, the way you talk to him?
Hey Chandler, how are you doing?
So the way we wanted to interview him initially was to have him lay out the story of what he was telling us from the first night.
So I think it's time we start talking about what happened to your parents. Like the truthful version.
So at that point, after we let him tell his entire story, we confront him and say that we know more than what he believes. We told him to come clean, basically not using those words, and we told him to tell us the truth.
Listen to me. This is the only chance you're gonna have to tell us the truth. Okay?
That's when investigators lower the boom on Chandler.
This is your chance to tell us why. Okay? I'm not BSing you. Okay? So can we do that?
Now, it's time for the really hard questions.
There's still another half of this couple that's missing.
If this turns out to be Bart's body, where is Krista Halderson?
So your mind starts thinking, well, what about Krista? You know, where's she? What happened to her?
No one's seen Krista, no one knows where Krista is, but they also haven't found a body. So the question is Krista still alive? If she is, where is she?
And this all leads some to be asking, is Chandler covering up for his mom? Could she have had something to do with Bart's disappearance?
This wasn't a normal disappearance. This wasn't a normal homicide. Every new detail made the case stranger.
The human remains found Thursday are connected to the missing couple, Bart Halderson and Krista Halderson.
You have search teams up there, you have dogs.
So now, where is Krista? Could it be that she was also involved in Bart's murder?
Is she going to be held hostage? Is she being tortured?
Time is of the essence. You have to find Krista.
Yes.
This second time with the search warrant, we have crime scene investigators that are in the home going through everything.
We're in the basement. What did you find down here?
Down here, we found traces of blood on both sides of the basement.
I don't really have words for it, to be honest. I just don't know how somebody could do that to somebody else.
Cameras all around. We know that Bart went into that home and never came out.
Everything seems so evil. Chilling. Unbelievable.
It's July 8th in Madison, Wisconsin. It's been a week since Bart and Krista Halderson were last seen. It can really feel warm there in the summer, even when you're not under the microscopic lens of the police.
What's going on?
Bart and Krista Halderson's youngest son, Chandler, is being interviewed by police, but he hasn't yet been charged in their disappearance. Now, police are playing coy with him. They haven't yet revealed the discovery of a body at that farm in Cottage Grove.
Listen, I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth. We know your parents are no longer with us, okay, and we know the reason why.
So far, nothing Chandler's told police has panned out. He told them and everyone else his parents went up to the cabin for the 4th of July weekend with some other couple, and nobody knows who they are. A search of the cabin clearly showed no one recently had been there.
You need to tell the truth about what happened and just tell us why it happened. Okay? If something happened, if you were defending yourself, or if you just got fed up with stuff, you need to tell us the truth, okay? This is your chance to tell us why, okay? I'm not BSing you, okay? So can we do that?
Okay, they're okay. Lawyer. I'm sorry. Say it again, Chandler. Lawyer. Okay.
Chandler asking for a lawyer effectively ends the interview on the spot.
Tell me what you're taking from all this as trained investigators who have to question people like this.
The first thing that really stood out in my mind is when Detective Hendrickson told Chandler that his parents are no longer with us.
We know your parents are no longer with us, okay, and we know the reason why.
There wasn't the huge shock reaction that I believe most people would display.
At this point, Chandler's not charged with murder, but he is charged with something else. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Chandler was charged with providing false information in a missing persons case. He was telling us that his parents had gone to a cabin up north, when in all reality we found that his parents didn't go anywhere at all.
Their son Chandler was arrested Thursday for allegedly providing false information to investigators.
Four days after Chandler's arrest, the autopsy results on the remains found at the farm come back.
The Dane County Medical Examiner confirms the human remains found last Thursday are those of 50-year-old Bart Halderson. A preliminary autopsy indicates he was murdered.
It was determined that the individual was shot, dismembered after they were killed, and was positively identified as Bart Halderson.
Okay, so what did you think when you got those results back?
It confirmed our suspicions of who it was, but now we had more evidence that we could charge Chandler with the homicide.
When I found out that Bart was dead, it was anger. It was, wow, this is real life. And there was just this big void of Bart being gone and no idea where Krista was.
A big question remained in our mind: where's Krista Halderson?
So now, where is Krista? Could it be that she was also involved in Bart's murder?
There were a few people that I communicated with, well, maybe Krista's involved.
One theory was this an incident where Krista killed her husband, but her son lives with them and he loves his mom. Was he covering for her? Was she responsible? There were all these questions. Again, it was one of those things. One layer gets pulled back, you get one answer, but for each answer you get, there are 17 more questions.
You're asking the question of where's Krista? There was some talk in the community about perhaps maybe in some way, once the murder charges are out there, Krista had some sort of involvement in what happened with Bart. Did you pursue that theory?
No, I mean, we did not believe that she would have anything to do with it. Of course, as time is going on and days are passing, we're learning more information about their whereabouts. We had surveillance video we were reviewing, trying to get a timeline from July 1st to July 7th. And so what we were learning did not suggest that Krista had any involvement at all.
Because I knew Krista and I knew her personality, I knew Krista was not involved.
It seemed like something you read about not happening to our family. Somebody else, you read about that, something happening somewhere else to somebody else, and that was happening to our family.
What are you thinking there?
We had this tiny little hope that she was alive somewhere.
Authorities are holding out hope, too, and ask the public for help to somehow find Krista alive.
We are optimistic in regards to her whereabouts and where she was at, and we will let the evidence of this investigation tell us otherwise.
Perhaps the most troubling question authorities are left with, why? This was a loving family. Why would Chandler, or anyone else for that matter, want either of the Haldersons dead? It didn't seem to add up.
I was starting to have that like sinking feeling in my stomach, like something went wrong in the family. I don't know what.
Facing at least one murder charge, Chandler is lawyered up and not talking. But someone very close to him is.
She had her cell phone back and had found something in her cell phone that she wanted to provide to us.
It's from Snapchat. I don't know if you use the app.
And you know how Snapchat messages disappear? One of Chandler's didn't.
The man accused of killing his father
is now being held in jail on a tentative charge of first-degree intentional homicide, hiding a corpse, and mutilating a corpse.
Sheriff's personnel tonight remain at the Halderson home in Windsor.
Investigators are leaving no stone unturned in the search for Krista Halderson. But with Chandler now in custody, hope is fading fast. Every minute that passes becomes more crucial.
And there was just this big void of Bart being gone and no idea where Krista was. I'm hoping she's alive.
A big question remained in our mind: where's Krista Halderson?
But things are about to take a dramatic turn. When police first spoke to Chandler's girlfriend, Kat Melander, she voluntarily gave them her cell phone. And on it, they found a vital clue to their investigation. By the time Kat comes in for a second interview, both she and police realize how important it can be.
Is there anything you want to tell us right away?
She comes to the realization that she didn't tell us everything and that she had something on her phone that could be helpful and valuable to finding the Haldersons. And it wasn't something that she intentionally withheld from us.
Tell me what you find on Kat's cell phone.
During the review of Kat's cell phone, we found numerous clues and treasures that I don't even know she knew she had. We found all of their message history, and we also found a screenshot of a Snapchat location that she had had.
That screenshot saved on Kat's phone shows Chandler's avatar labeled hubby on the banks of the Wisconsin River. Snapchat is a social media app specifically designed to share photos that disappear. Once you open a message, you only have a few seconds to take a screenshot before that picture is gone for good. In 2017, Snapchat added the feature Snap Map, which also lets you share your location with friends in real time.
And why did she have him on Snapchat in the first place?
They had a time in their relationship where he had cheated on her. She had his location services on for Snapchat. It was an agreement they had. She wanted to be able to know his whereabouts.
With her lawyer present and her cell phone in hand, she voluntarily talks police through what she now realizes could be critical evidence: a technological smoking gun.
It's from Snapchat. I don't know if you use the app, but that's him by the Wisconsin River off of Gulf Road.
Okay.
And that's
It's got a timestamp
8:58
on it. Okay.
in the morning.
Sure.
And then my phone always tells me what day it is. So it's July 3rd, 8:58 a.m.
The continued presence of sheriff's personnel at the Halderson home has become almost background for this neighborhood here. Krista Halderson remains missing.
With the case in the news, Kat and her lawyer decide this information could be useful to police and to Kat.
Right before Kat goes back for that second interview, we're getting updates from law enforcement, and one of those comes in the form of a press briefing. And a reporter asks, is the girlfriend a suspect? And the sheriff didn't answer. And that freaked Kat out.
Is there any way you guys can change the narrative
to indicate that she's not, the girlfriend's not a suspect and that she's not somehow somebody you suspect.
How early did you clear Captain
Melander?
Pretty early on, once we started looking at her phone and finding out other information about Chandler. But there were, different investigators in the command post that had different theories. Was she in the circle? Was she out of the circle? And we just had to do our job and let the evidence lead us to the conclusion, and she was not involved whatsoever.
Law enforcement was very clear. They don't think Kat had anything to do with these murders.
Why do you think she was so eager to offer all this information?
I think because she wanted to clear herself.
Why did she do a screenshot of a snap map on Chandler at that time?
She had left Chandler's house that morning on Saturday, and he was supposed to go to do some chores. And then she later looked at his location and saw that he was up by the Wisconsin River.
She goes, this is where he was, middle of the morning on Saturday, after his parents went missing. He told me he was going to be doing chores at his house, and then he wasn't answering, and I checked Snapchat, and he's in this random area right along a river.
She didn't know why he was there, so she started questioning him about his location and what he was doing there.
I was like, hey, where you at? Where you at? Like, you're not responding to me on Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we ended up calling, and he just said like he was in a dead zone.
Kat knows this area. It's a swimming hole. She's been with Chandler. They'd been that summer.
Have you been to that spot? Do you know?
I don't know if it's that specific spot, but we used to swim on the Wisconsin River.
Okay.
And like it's one of the spots we would just go to.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've only been there like maybe 3 times.
Okay.
But he's gone swimming there a couple times.
Okay.
In fact, other friends told police that was Chandler's favorite swimming spot. A year earlier, an ex-girlfriend receives this picture, which she gave to police, of Chandler in that area, posing with a tree and a knife in his hand.
This case really highlighted how social media tracks everything. And that became so crucial in this case.
But as enlightening as this Snapchat evidence is, a treasure trove of text messages between Kat and Chandler is even more intriguing. Investigators zero in on a couple of erratic texts from Chandler the morning Bart and Krista vanish, which sound ominous. I don't know. Stuff hasn't really been going well for me lately, so I'm trying to plan for the next thing to expletive me over. Yeah, I just had a great future plan, and it's falling apart. Kat replies, no, it's not. You're going to be okay. With suspicions of Chandler now high as ever, investigators obtain a search warrant and go back to the Halderson home.
We go back to the nexus of this case, the Halderson's home in Windsor. Investigators start walking through, and they find a lot in that house, a lot that tells us what happened.
The Dane County Sheriff's Office now considers this to be a homicide investigation. That's because they found the remains of Bart Halderson late last week in a rural area of the town of Cottage Grove.
On July 11th, a judge authorizes a search warrant of the Halderson home in Windsor.
It's where they were living with Chandler. It was the last place we know Bart and Krista were. So investigators start walking through.
Investigators are familiar with the home as they'd been there just a few days earlier.
To step back a little bit, this isn't the first time you've been to the house, right?
Right.
Okay, so what did you do the first time when you were in the house? What did you find?
When we were in the house the first night on July 7th, Chandler did walk us around after we interviewed him and showed us what he wanted us to see around the home.
As the investigators entered the den on that initial search, they noticed the fireplace looked not quite right.
It has a glass front, 4 glass panels, or there's supposed to be 4, but one of them is missing.
There was a glass panel that was broken out in the fireplace, and he had disclosed that to deputies and to us the first night we were in there, and explained it that he was playing ball with one of the dogs, and the dogs broke the glass fireplace. And so that was his story.
Dog broke a panel, there was broken glass everywhere, I was cleaning it up, I cut my foot, I got some blood everywhere.
Chandler's saying there's broken glass and there was a lot of blood, but it's not related at all to this case. It was my dog's.
And when they look at his foot, they realize it's not a huge cut. He didn't slash the bottom of his foot open. Looks kind of more like a pinprick. Not necessarily something that seems like it would come from glass being all over the floor.
They found his blood, but did that line up with what he said about cutting his foot? And that's why that blood was there? Or was it that you might have gotten a sense that it was something different?
It could mean that Chandler had cut his toe near the fireplace, but it wouldn't explain why Bart and Krista's blood would be in the same area.
And on that second search of the home, luminol testing would reveal traces of blood belonging to Bart and Krista Halderson in the living room, leading investigators to believe they've both been murdered. But as they continue their search, they find more ominous evidence.
During the search warrant, we did find 2 cell phones and Bart and Krista's driver's licenses wrapped in tinfoil in a shoe in the garage.
What does that tell you?
That told us that Bart and Krista didn't go anywhere.
And how does that poke holes in what Chandler told you?
Chandler had told us that he was messaging back and forth with his mother, Krista, on Sunday, and that Krista was messaging him that they made it, and that they were going to be watching the fireworks and the parade. We found that that was not true.
How could she be texting him if her phone is sitting right there wrapped up in aluminum foil?
Yes.
The phone proved that Bart and Krista never left their house. They never went to the cabin. The only other person who was home was Chandler.
Do you have any sense of why they were wrapped in aluminum foil?
I think Chandler thought that would protect them from cell phone towers.
Detectives also did an extensive search of Chandler Halderson's bedroom, resembling something like an armory.
So in Chandler's bedroom, we actually located a case of approximately 480 SKS rifle rounds.
So we're in the basement now. What did you find down here?
Down here, we found traces of blood on both sides of the basement. We had the shell casing that we had located over here. There was some other blood evidence on different items down here.
Okay, so you have the blood, the shell casing. Did this tell you, along with the other evidence, where Bart and Krista were killed?
It did, yeah. They were killed down here.
So you had the shell casings, you had the ammo, but you didn't have the murder weapon. Where was that recovered?
The rifle was recovered at the farm in Cottage Grove.
The weapon was found hidden in a barn on the farm's property. No one had any idea it was there.
Chandler really liked first-person shooter video games. And in those games, you can choose what weapon you use. And he liked to try a variety, you know. He wasn't a single gun type person, but he liked the SKS rifle in those video games. He used it a lot.
Now you have a link between the shell casings and the ammo and this gun at the farm.
Yes. The picture that we were seeing at that point is that Chandler had murdered Bart and Krista Halderson in the home and went through extensive work to dispose of their bodies.
What was the reason for it? All in all, they were a loving family, from what we were told by everybody.
Those questions, prosecutors promise, are about to be answered.
The lawyers will now make opening statements.
Got a GPS on the phone, according to you.
It's from Snapchat. I don't know if you use that, but that's...
You've been to that spot?
I don't know if it's that specific spot, but we used to swim on the Wisconsin River.
Investigators already have the snap map from Chandler Halderson's girlfriend, placing him at the Wisconsin River. But it's a second tip of a random sighting that piques their interest.
We had sent a detective up to the Wisconsin River area. One of the neighbors happened to come over to that detective and tell him that she had seen a strange or suspect male in that area the week prior. We arranged for a larger team of detectives to go up to the area, and we wanted to do a land search of that property.
They go where Chandler was. It's A dense, vegetative area, wild state land, in between, a road and the river.
You have search teams up there, you have dogs. What's going through your mind?
We were hopeful that we would find something.
Time is of the essence. You have to find Krista.
Yes.
As they're walking around, some of the people searching start to smell something. And then they walk a little bit further and they see something.
What did you find at that location?
In close proximity to each other, there were dismembered body parts.
The Dane County Medical Examiner's Office, working in partnership with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, has confirmed the DNA obtained from part of the dismembered human remains as matching 53-year-old Krista Halderson.
I was just angered. I was shocked, felt sick to my stomach. I mean, these are honest to goodness friends.
It's just so graphic. I don't really have words for it, to be honest.
I see you thinking about it, and it almost brings about some emotion in you.
For sure. I just don't know how somebody could do that to somebody else, especially if it's their parents, right? We go to homicides all the time. We go to murders all the time. And a lot of that stuff is in the heat of the moment. This is just a whole nother level of emotion.
The location where Krista's remains are found seems familiar to at least one detective. And then it clicks when he sees a unique tree trunk, the same one in that photograph given to police by Chandler's ex, showing Chandler near his favorite swimming spot.
Chandler Halderson is now officially charged in the death of both of his parents.
Chandler Halderson pleads not guilty to all the charges.
Everything seems so evil and chilling and unbelievable.
It was just incomprehensible. Why would anybody do that? Did he not like them? Was there something else that we didn't know that was going on? I just personally could not think of a reason why this wonderful kid did something so dastardly.
From what we were told by everybody, all in all, they were a loving family. What was the reason for it?
And just a couple of months later, prosecutors set out to answer those questions as Chandler goes to trial.
Thanks, you can be seated, everybody. Thank you. Good morning.
The city of Madison, Wisconsin rings in the new year with confetti, cocktails, and a double murder trial. Prosecutors set out to prove Chandler killed Bart and Krista Halderson. And a big part of their strategy is to prove their theory as to why.
Juries always want to understand why someone would commit a murder. Why would you kill your parents? And if prosecutors don't explain it, it's kind of a hole in their case.
The lawyers will now make opening statements. Attorney Brown.
Thank you. Chandler Halderson murdered his parents, dismembered their bodies, and hid them around southern Wisconsin. How does this happen? How does this kid, with everything in the world going for him, promising new jobs, school, a girlfriend that loves him, willing to move across the country for him, how does this happen?
The jury hears about Chandler Halderson's IT degree, studies in renewable energy, a dream job at SpaceX, and a new life with his girlfriend in Florida.
He was about to embark on a career that people in the IT field could only dream of.
But they also hear about what prosecutors say was a concoction, a total fabrication of the events leading up to Bart and Krista's disappearance.
He gives this bizarre story of his parents leaving in an unknown car, going to a cabin with an unknown couple, with an unknown amount of money, for really an unknown reason.
Attorney Dorrell.
Thank you.
The defense should be demonstrating why they say there's reasonable doubt in this case. Why maybe he didn't do it.
Chandler Halderson did not murder his parents. He is not guilty of those crimes. And he lived peacefully in his parents' home. He was just a normal kid.
The defense comes out at the beginning, opening statements, and admits their client is a liar. Chandler Halderson is a liar. But they say that doesn't make him a killer.
When someone is on trial for the most serious crime possible. And every little thing they do, every little lie they might have told is blown up and thrown against someone. That's when proof beyond a reasonable doubt matters.
And that's actually an excellent strategy because you want to let the jury know from the beginning all of the bad facts about your case.
And as prosecutors begin to call witnesses, there's one who has a haunting story.
My name is Omar Jobe, O-M-A-R-J-O-B-E.
About a phone call he receives just before the murders. A conversation not only revealing, but stunning.
The trial continues for Chandler Halderson, who's accused of killing and dismembering his parents, Bart and Krista Halderson.
Chandler Halderson is on trial for the murder of both his parents. And from jump, prosecutors promised the jury they'd hear the reason why. And in their opening statements, prosecutors told the jury it all started because that promising future Chandler supposedly had was a mirage. Called to the witness stand, Omar Jobe, a Madison College enrollment officer, who says his phone rang on June 29th. It's a call, he says, he won't soon forget.
Was that call recorded? Yes.
Okay, what's your first name? Chandler, C-H-A-N-D-L-E-R. Last name is H-A-L-D as in David, E-R-S-O-N.
It's a normal phone call that we receive every day. This person was trying to request a transcript.
Trying to get an appointment scheduled to meet with somebody to mainly just get a copy of the transcript.
On this call, Jobe is hearing a complaint from Chandler that for months now, he hasn't received his college transcripts.
Okay, so it looks like you owe a balance. So that's why you can't request it. Hello?
The jury listens as Omar Jobe then tries to confirm what classes Chandler is taking.
You were taking IT classes, right? I don't see that you were in a program. But prior to the IT, there was a solar program too. Yeah, but I don't see that. The IT degree is in there, right? No, those are just classes.
I found that Chandler was taking classes at Madison College for a couple of semesters, and then he stopped.
But here's the thing about that phone call. It's not at all what it appears to be.
At that time, it didn't register in my mind.
On the other line, it is a Halderson, but it's not Chandler. It's actually Bart Halderson pretending to be his son.
Prosecutors play it during trial. The jury got to hear what Bart sounded like as he figured out his son was lying to him.
Bart has been trying unsuccessfully for months to get the transcripts from Chandler, and he was beginning to get suspicious.
According to prosecutors, the phone call was a ruse by Bart to see if his son was actually enrolled in college, and it turns out he wasn't. He failed out.
Prosecutors also allege that Chandler had set up fake email accounts in an attempt to deceive his father about why his transcripts weren't coming.
Chandler was looping Bart in on some of these emails with Madison College, just trying to show Bart that this is why I'm not getting my transcripts.
But the problem is, according to detectives, they're fake too.
He asked me 2 people's names that work in advising because they were trying to set up something with them.
Do you have an Alyssa Brandt that works in that area or anywhere in the campus? You said the first name is Alyssa? Alyssa? Yeah, A-L-Y-S-S-A? No, there's no Alyssa. Does Daniel Spice still work there? No.
Chandler had made up fake emails with fake school employees to email back and forth about the transcript issue.
Can I ask you, what is the end part of every employee's email who works for Madison College?
MadisonCollege.edu.
No one uses a Gmail account as their official Madison College email?
No.
But college wasn't the only alleged deception Chandler carried out. Prosecutors call in witnesses who reveal things like that internship at American Family Insurance.
I found no record of that person working for American Family.
The job at Elon Musk's SpaceX?
Were there ever any emails regarding a job application or employments with SpaceX?
No.
Prosecutors argue that essentially everything he supposedly had going for him, none of it was real.
The defense did not cross-examine these witnesses.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
The defense always has to balance between aggressively cross-examining witnesses and alienating the jury.
So the insurance company internship, the SpaceX opportunity, the going to school, all a lie.
All lies. Yeah.
So you're hearing this at the trial. What did this make you think of him?
That he's not anybody who I thought he was.
It's an explosive claim in court. Authorities say Chandler has been perpetrating this catfish scheme for at least a year. The call to Madison College would turn out to be fateful, and the last recorded words of Bart Halderson.
Okay, that should do it then. Okay, thank you for your help.
Bart then sends Chandler a text. I spoke with Omar Job.
Bart sets up a meeting for July 1st with a school administrator and plans to bring Chandler along. Around 2 p.m. that day, Bart sends this text to his son. I'm ready whenever you are.
It's the last text message from Bart, and the last day Bart and Krista are seen alive.
And Bart figured it out. Chandler realized he could lose everything. Prosecution, the story they painted was that Chandler gave himself no other option.
Not long after that, Chandler asked his mom to stop at the gas station and pick up soda.
Chandler's text says, Dad's phone died. Text or call me, and get soda on your way home. I have an extra hour of work. Krista replies, Kay, I can, smiley face. That would be the last text from Krista Halderson.
As if the alleged motive wasn't already shocking enough, there was Chandler's whole history of a debilitating head injury, which prosecutors say was also untrue.
Late June, early July 2021, Chandler had just fallen down the stairs. He had this injury that he said could cause lifelong side effects. By all accounts, the fall stopped Chandler's life.
Prosecutors entered this photo into evidence at trial to support their theory that Chandler's fall is part of an alleged web of lies. Prosecution calls the ER doctor to dispel that myth.
I'm an emergency physician at the University of Wisconsin Hospital and Clinics.
What in this case did you diagnose Mr. Halderson with?
I believe he was diagnosed as having a mild concussion. The patient had some residual neck pain, so he was given a collar to go home with for support.
The defense pushes back on the prosecution's claims, cross-examining the ER doctor about Chandler's injury.
You did diagnose Chandler Halderson with a mild concussion, right?
That's correct.
You didn't give him a set number of days to wear the collar, is that right?
I don't believe so, no.
In that picture, on Father's Day of 2021, standing next to Bart, he's got the brace on, because he did go to the ER.
That Father's Day brunch photo, which is shown to the jury by prosecutors, is just weeks before the murder.
But then there's surveillance video of Chandler the night of July 1st at a nearby Quick Trip carrying 2 bags of ice, 10-pound bags of ice.
But prosecutors also point out, conspicuously missing on this Quick Trip surveillance video, Chandler's neck brace. And they claim it's the same story when he visits a local store.
He's at Fleet Farm. Again, no neck brace. Just normal 23-year-old dude walking into Fleet Farm to buy a tarp.
And that tarp, prosecutors say, is part of what Chandler used to dispose of his parents' remains.
The prosecution calls one last star witness, Chandler's ex-girlfriend, Kat Melander, who testifies about the impact of sharing the Snap Map discovery on her phone.
Why was it important to you to cooperate at that time?
Because I just believed his parents were missing. And I just want them to be found.
And later, she recalls something else she noticed during the initial search for Bart and Krista.
When you first go in the house that day, did you notice anything off?
There was a smoky smell.
That smoky smell, a neighbor's security camera, and a flickering light are about to reveal another dark secret inside the home. It turns out, prosecutors say, Chandler has one more big thing to hide. It's day 7 in Chandler Halderson's trial, as he stands accused of the murder of his own parents in what prosecutors say was a desperate attempt to conceal a secret web of lies. But what the jury hears next is some of the most disturbing evidence yet.
We had a grand total of 230 bones, fragmented bones that were found, again, inside the fireplace, on the grate, and also on the ash disposal area.
So we found video footage from one of the neighbors that actually watched the backside of the house. And through a forensic analysis of that video, our examiner was able to determine that the glow in certain windows of this home was indeed the fireplace.
What was the most disturbing moment of the trial for you?
They showed the fireplace burning all night when he was trying to cremate the skulls of his parents. I almost got sick watching that.
The defense didn't challenge Dr. Figueroa Soto's testimony. After 8 days of testimony, it's the defense's turn. Everyone's wondering what Chandler's case is going to be. But in a surprise move, the defense rests without calling a single witness.
Attorney Dorrell, will other witnesses being called this morning?
No, Your Honor. Watching this trial, it was so one-sided. There were 8 full days of testimony from the prosecution. They had so much evidence. The defense was the opposite.
This time I will invite the state to present its closing argument.
In closing arguments, the prosecution urges the jury to look at this image of Bart and Krista, likening the pieces of evidence to that of a jigsaw.
Solving a case and thinking about whether or not a person is guilty or not guilty is like putting together a puzzle. And it's your job as the jury to put that puzzle together. It's not a whodunit. We know that Bart and Krista went into that home and never came out, at least as whole people.
Attorney Vera, would you please present the defense closing?
Thank you.
While the defense says all the state was able to prove was that Chandler is a liar, not a killer.
Kids lie to their parents all the time. Motive does not mean intent. Do you know if it was an awful accident? Do you know if it was intentional? Do you know if there was someone else involved? You don't. And that's a problem.
Just after 3 p.m., news breaks that the jury has reached a verdict.
Breaking news. In just about a little over 2 hours, the jury has reached a verdict in the Chandler Halderson case.
When we found out that the verdict was in, it had been 2 hours. No one knew what was going on. People were waiting on pins and needles to figure out what that was.
We, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
Chandler Halderson is found guilty on all 8 charges.
So what was your reaction to the verdict?
I would like to say it was relief. It really wasn't, because it's still sad, it's still grotesque, everything about it. There was some closure for the family. To me, it was just and fair.
In March of 2022, at sentencing, Chandler breaks his silence for the first time.
Your Honor, I want to take this opportunity to state my intent to appeal my convictions. If there are any lawyers listening and willing to take on my appeal, take a moment to please reach out to me. It's not that I do not have feelings. It's that I was warned to not show them due to the scrutiny of this case. Thank you.
No remorse, no empathy, no love to his parents.
Chandler is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, still leaving his family and friends with far more questions than answers as to why he murdered his mother and father.
The Haldersons and I were friends for about 25, 26 years. And there was never a crossword. They were just good people. If there were more Bart and Kristas in the world, it would be a better world.
If Chandler would have just asked for help, what do you think Barb and Krista would have done?
They would have given everything, anything to help him. They would have been there. That's the kind of people they were.
If you could talk to Krista one more time, if you just had one more moment to say something to her, what would it be?
I would say you were a great mom.
A wonderful mom being remembered by her family right here tonight, and this is a murder that still leaves so many unanswered questions. In April of 2023, 2 of Chandler's convictions for hiding his parents' remains were vacated.
His other convictions and his sentence, though, still stand, while his case remains pending in the Court of Appeals. That's our program for tonight. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
अल्फ अल्लाह की जात तू ऐ झोर सदके जेड़ो कुल कायनात चलाण आलो अल्फ अल्लाह की जात तू झोर सदके जेड़ो कुल कायनात चलाण आलो हुक्म उसके बाजना पत्थर अल्लाह ओ तेरो मेरो वजूद बनाण आलो 18,000 मखलूक गो ऐ मालिक सुनो रब सुनो जमीन आसमान आलो अर्श फर्श लो कलम महफूज कुर्सी जिया जून ना रिज़क खिलाण आलो दाल दुखांगी गल सो नौरे तमना एक बच्ची मासूम रोलाओ गई है दाल दुखांगी गल सो नौरे तमना एक बच्ची मासूम रोलाओ गई है ओ उसकी मारे गुलनाज है बहुत दुखिया मारा सीना माँ बर छिलाओ गई है नाओ बच्ची गो अफसा में मूद सोनो रोग उमरा गो सुनी लाओ गई है ओ जिला पुणछ गिरा शिंदरा सोनो ऐ दुखिया दिलाना अफजारो लाओ गई है दाल दर्द जो दयागा ऐ आई बहुत औखा है पर बचागी नारे जो दई होवे दाल दर्द जो दयागा आई बहुत औखा है पर बचागी नारे जो दई होवे ओ माना सबर करार फिर नहीं रहा तो दफ्ते जिगर की जद जो दई होवे ते बाप उसको मैं मुँह दियो सेन दुखिया अफसा जही बची सिने लाई होवे ओ दुख मुझ जावेद माँ बाप नावे ओ बचा किसे की नारे जो दई होवे तेरे हो रब गा करम तमाम होए आस्तारा अप्रैल ना खुशी भरपूर होई रे हो रब गा करम तमाम होए आस्तारा अप्रैल ना खुशी भरपूर होई ओ अल्लाह पाक ने दिती एक बच्चियों सोनी ऐ गुनाहगारांगी अर्ज मंजूर होई दिन माँ दाखिल रही महारात ऐ 10 बजे प्रश्न होयो ते टेंशन दूर होई ओ दीती खबर फिर आनी उन डॉक्टरां ने होगी बची पर बड़ी कमजोरी होई सलाह दीती वीर डॉक्टर है कमजोर बची ले गए बीच मशीन रखाओ दीती सलाह दीती डॉक्टर है कमजोर बची ले गए बीच मशीन रखाओ दीती 18-19 तक रखी पुणछ अंदर और पर इकी नर जोरी कराओ दीती आई रात 9 बजे मामू आई नानी दोए गड्डी तरफ जोरी चलाओ दीती ओ मासा देरी ना लाई ले चल गया ओ 12 बजे जोरी पहुंचाओ दीती किसना चैन सकून फिरे आई उस दिन तो रास्ता बिच डाडा परेशान होया आई किसना चैन सकून फिरे आई उस दिन तो रास्ता बिच डाडा परेशान होया रात 12 बजे ले जोरी पुजया कि जल्दी डॉक्टरां कोल रवाने होया आई डॉक्टर नब्ज तके मुतू ये बोल न सके असली राज तू बे वो हैरान होया ओ अमानत रब की है तम सबर करियो ए आपसा बची गारू वे रवान होया किसना होश रे ओ सुनी ये खबर जिस दम आया है आप जायम ना छोड़ गई है अरे किसना होश रे ओ सुनी ये खबर जिस दम आया है आप जायम ना छोड़ गई है ये एम्बुलेंस करी वापस पुणच चलना मारी किस्मत आज मुखरे मोड़ गई है आई गुल नाज वाणी अरे ए मान बाकी मेरी खुशी ना किंगा तू रोड़ गई है दाखिल बीच अस्पताल थी पुणछ अंदर ये मांगुल नाज गो दिल क्यों तोड़ गई है अप्रैल बाई ना सुबह गए 5 बजे वतन शीदरा पुजे आयान सदके अप्रैल बाई ना सुबह गए 5 बजे वतन शीदरा पुजे आयान सदके माना 10 बजे एम्बुलेंस आने तेरा तकन गाया अफजायर मान सदके ते कितना दुख था महंगा ऐ काल जामा जाने वाया रब रहमान सदके और वे बाप महमूद परवेज नानी नाले रोवे सजाद यवान सदके कफन दफन गो विलोणे यार के ओ इना दुकाना उण मीटौरे किसरा कफन दफन गो विलोणे हार के ओ इना दुकाना उण मीटौरे किसरा ओ जीता मांगे बचा गो टूर जानो इस शेर बर कलम चनो किसरा ते अच्छा रब वाले हुणे आई छोड़ गई है तीना सिना नालू हुण लो किसरा सबर या तो नी दिल मां याद तेरी रोता दिला ना चुप करूं किसरा ते फिया मान इना दुखाने हई मुकणो नी 4 बजे रे आपदा दफनाओ छोड़ी हई फिया मान इना दुखाने हई मुकणो नी 4 बजे रे आपदा दफनाओ छोड़ी वतन पुणच गिराशी दराय अंदर ओ सोनी निकी जी कबर बनाओ छोड़ी सबर करियो महमूद गुल नाज दोए मानत रब गी रब ने छुपाओ छोड़ी ओए पिया मान जावे तू इजाजत ले ले जख्म मोड़ी भी क्यों रे दुखाओ छोड़ी